Thank you for coming tonight. We have a very short agenda today. Mostly it's going to be Dr. Garcia providing us the budget presentation. And
Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm sorry, what?
Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, of course. Ms. Lazard, can you do the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start, can I ask if members would mind if Mrs. Paula Haney can sit with the board? She is our liaison representing the Board of Finance.
Anybody from the Board of Finance is more than welcome to sit.
Come on up, Ms. Paula Haney.
Come up, Mrs. Haney. In fact, we have a couple of unused seats right up here in front.
Thank you, Mrs. Haney.
Glass of water?
I'm sorry?
Glass of water?
Oh, no, I'm...
Now you're pouring it on.
She can't make the decision alone.
Who's your place?
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Garcia?
Madam Chair, I know it's not on the agenda, but do I have the opportunity to acknowledge a recognition?
Absolutely.
Okay, I would like to, and I did send an email to all of you, but I would like to publicly acknowledge Sweeney Elementary School that received the honor of School of Distinction. And
Yes.
there are only about 13 Alliance District schools that received that distinction. Not only Sweeney received School of Distinction, but Sweeney School was in the top 10 of the entire state of Connecticut, the school that meet their growth target in the area for all students and in the area for ELL students. So please join me in congratulating students, staff, teacher, parents, and students, and the administration for a job well done. Sweeney, as we have our meeting and we figure out who is on the bus, who is on the train, Sweeney is not on the bus or the train, Sweeney is on the jet.
On the jet.
We have people to be at the bus stop figuring out they should get on the bus, but Sweeney is on the jet. So congratulations to Sweeney. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Windham Public School budget, draft budget to you. This is the opportunity for you to look at the budget and continue the discussion and give some recommendations to the superintendent. Before I start with the presentation of the budget, I would like to say a little bit about the budget process. The budget process is a very inclusive process. We started with schools, principals presenting their needs to the superintendent, their needs aligned to the strategic plan, to the mission, vision, and the theory of action of the school district. We did the same thing with the different departments, and so everyone had the opportunity to discuss their needs in their school or their department, and then come back and we met with Mr. Johnson to first look at staffing, what they had, and then met with the superintendent. So a very inclusive process. We also had two community forums where we talked to the community and talked to the community to see we continue this year, what are the things we think we should delete or add or continue. So this budget represents the wish of the community and also the wishes of the administrative staff, and aligned to our vision and theory of action. So I do want to remind all of us before I start again that when we make a decision of what needs to be in the budget of how we're spending our money, our guiding principles were our mission, vision, and theory of action. So we look at what is our purpose for Windham Public School. We also look at our vision and so, okay, what are the things that we want to do, what Windham Public School should look like, our classroom, our schools. And also look at our strategy, what is our theory of action that guide the initiatives of the things that we want to do in Windham Public School. So when we say that we want to ensure high quality, culturally relevant instruction in every classroom, well, what are the initiative or the action step to make sure that happens? When we say we want to have strong hiring practices, how should that look like? And when we say continue the support for teachers, what should that look like? So the activities that we have, the initiative, the action step, all are aligned to our theory of action. Why a Windham Public School budget? Just a reminder again that the budget is the tool that we use to achieve our mission, vision, or strategic goals. The budget is the tool that we use to enhance teaching and learning in the school district. And the budget is the tool that we are going to use to make sure that our students are prepared to be successful in career or college. I want to say that the budget proposal and initiative presented by the Department of the Schools were discussed at length, and those also serve as the basis to developing the budget. One thing that guided us that we developed the budget were the 5 goals of the district. I'm not going to go over those goals. Again, they're in your packet, and we discussed it in the retreat yesterday, but we are very in tune with the goals of the school district. So when we look at academic students and academic preparation for college or career, we look at what we're doing with initiative in math, in reading, etc. When we look at climate and culture, what are we doing in the area of discipline? When we look at family and community engagement, we look at our peer university, our community expo, etc. So again, we are reminded when we go through this process that we want to have coherence in what we're doing in order to get to our mission and our vision. So we make sure that if something is coming to the table, it's aligned to what we're doing. And so here's our journey. We get them in pre-K. We want them to graduate from high school ready for college or career. Now, in addition to looking at mission, vision, and theory of action, enrollment is also important to look at. And as you can see, the enrollment in the district is increasing. And also the needs of the district is increasing. Our population of ELS students is increasing. Our population of special ed students is increasing. As we increase enrollment, as we increase our students in special education, our students in ELL, the needs also increase for the district. So you will see that could be a higher cost in special ed because of the number and the needs that we're handling in the district.
Dr. Garcia, is that page in our books?
Yes.
I must have
No,
missed
it's
it.
not. Yes, it should be in your book. Not in your book?
I didn't see it.
We didn't put the enrollment?
Not in the order that you have in this.
No, because
I
this
can't
is
find
a
it.
I know it's a
presentation,
summary,
yeah.
I understand.
Right, a summary, so now.
Can you email that to me tomorrow?
That would be good to have.
Yeah, okay.
Just because they've gone up. Somebody asked me that just now when we were working over in the other room on Dollars for Scholars. Somebody asked me what the enrollment was at the high school, and I said it's gone up. So if if we can have that conversation publicly,
Sure,
that's a good
sure.
idea.
So thank you for asking that question. So another thing that I should point out to the board is because this is a summary presentation, whatever item that you see that is not in your budget book that you would like to have, let us know. We take it down right away when we get it to you tomorrow. Okay? Thank you for that. Thank you for that question, Mrs. And by the way, we came to a consensus here in the district. Enrollment is taken at October 1st. Before we have enrollment at June 30th, enrollment October 1st. So all the years that you see there are as October 1st. And that's the official enrollment for the state. So this is the date, right, Neil, that we submit the official enrollment to the state. That is required by law.
Those numbers are effective, you said October, or did you just pull those numbers
No,
to get the
October
accuracy?
1st.
October 1st.
We pulled them today,
Yeah,
but those are the official, if you go to the state
October
site, those
1st.
are our.
That's what they have?
Yes.
That's
Okay,
correct.
because in the beginning of each school, in our binders,
Right.
it has the enrollment numbers. So I just wanted
Which
to
is
make,
also the October 1st enrollment
okay,
collection.
so we actually do have the numbers.
Yes. So we are using,
Yes.
we came to a consensus in the district that we're using October 1st numbers, and we should be using October 1st.
Okay, okay.
That's what we
Those are
get
the-
funding based on.
Huh?
Yes.
That's what we
That's
receive our
funding is
funding based on.
So from now on, when you ask for an enrollment numbers, you will be getting October 1st.
October 1st, okay.
Well, it's just nice seeing it in this format. I did go through school by school and saw that there was
Yeah,
enrollment
we
by
get it to
school,
you.
but
We get it
that's
to you,
nice
Mrs.
to have, and that would be nice for Ms. Haney to have, to be
Right.
able to say,
Yeah.
look,
It's
they're
a nice
doing it,
layout.
people are coming
Yeah.
back, they're working hard, give them the money they need.
Thank you.
Just like
You knew I was going to say that.
Just like that.
They're going to be so easy to the Board of Finance. You see there, this is it. So we'll make a list of the things that you need, that you request to get it to you tomorrow. And also, I think it's important to point out the budget increases or decreases since 2013 to 2017. And I want to point out that in 2015, 2016, the Board of Finance was very gracious and gave us a one-time lump sum to buy things that we needed, like the textbook for math, K through 12, and also to improve technology in the district. So those are one-time money that was given to us at that particular time. But if you look at last year, the budget for 16-17, the only thing that we received were the contractual obligations. So-
And not even fully that.
Not even full.
Not
Not even fully
fully
that.
right.
Just the
Right.
salary.
Those the salary, it's
Short of,
not the
just slightly
benefits.
short of the salary.
Right.
They give
Not
us
the
just enough
benefits
to
and the pension,
survive.
et cetera. Those the contractual obligation. So there's a big difference there. The year before, we did have money to buy textbooks and to the technology, and last year only the contractual obligation. So there were not many things that were purchased. So let's look at our budget priorities. Again, budget priorities that are aligned to what we're doing. One of the things we're making sure that we're consistent in our initiative. We're not starting something now and at the end of the year. A perfect example is our curriculum maps. So we're very consistent in the things that we are doing in the district. And so first, expand college learning opportunity for high school students at all levels. We want to make sure that we can increase our ECE courses with UConn. And we also want to make sure that our ECO program also can increase. So we want to expand college opportunity. You heard a presentation from Mr. Soto a couple weeks ago. That's a new partnership for college opportunity for our students with higher ed. Implement social studies and science curriculum maps. When we started with ELA and math. Those are well on their way, being implemented. We started developing social studies and science. They're in the process. We started implementing them this year. We continue to work on them. And as the new science test is put in place, this will end the process maybe the end of this year and continue to revise them. Redesign the district bilingual program. We are on our way. We started this year by implementing transitional bilingual in kindergarten. We're moving it now to first grade in Sweeney, Natchog, Windham Center, and North Windham is requesting a kindergarten transitional bilingual program. Plan for development of the K through 8 dual language school. Tomorrow in the Planning and Design Committee meeting, we will be talking about the K through 8 dual language school. We have made several attempts, productive and very successful attempt to look at building space, and we also are looking at the programmatic elements of the program. So this will not start September 2017, but we will have a year of planning to develop this program. That I'm excited about it. I think Mr. Powers is also excited about, right, Mr. Powers?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I wish it was, we weren't waiting another year, that's all. Sorry.
Can't be this fast. Implement the musical instrument program at the elementary school. I invite you to take a look at the Windham Center music band program. Windham Center has an entire music band program with the help of support from a foundation that gave them about $10,000. But every school in the district has a fourth grade instrument program. And so next year we plan to move to fifth grade. So I invite you to go and take a look at our babies playing their instrument program and loving music and learning how to read music and developing a stronger love for music. Who knows, we might get a Beethoven out of this. Build by teacher and administrator capacity. This is our basis of growing. We have to continue to learn how to do this job better. If we don't continue to learn as teachers and administrators, then our students cannot learn. So we have to invest in building the capacity of our teachers. And the difficulty of this is that not all teachers or administrators are at the same level. So we have learning doesn't occur the same for all of them. So I will say the intervention for teachers is also different. And some teachers may need strategy A, but some teachers need strategy B. So one of the things we're going to work on next year is how do we personalize more the professional development for teachers. I think the district has done a very good job in providing professional development. We're very proud of our reading, writing, and math workshops, but we want to make it more personalized for our teachers next year. Strengthen the middle school curriculum and student learning. As I said to you before, I'm very excited about the direction that middle school will be taking next year. As a commissioner of network school, you know that we had to go to the state and request funding for the following year. We haven't heard from that yet, but what we do know is that we're very excited about the direction we're wanting to take the middle school. We know based on research that transition from fifth grade to sixth grade is very important. Our transition is important. From 8 to 9 are also very important. We want to make sure that we address the social and emotional needs of our students in sixth grade. In addition to that, we want to make sure that we address the appropriate time for the learning of science and social studies. So we're really looking at redesigning sixth grade next year. I can tell you that the sixth grade teachers are on board, and so we want to make sure that's continue to be on our initiative. Implement an alternative education program. This is not only a mandate, we discussed that during the retreat, but also a need for our district in making sure that we provide the social skills and the skills for life that some of our students do need. and do need another environment in order to learn. And implement an instructional technology program for 6th and 9th grade. I put 6th and 9th grade, and you may ask, well, why 6th and 9th grade and not other grades? We are in the 21st century, and I am not a guru in technology. I am not, I want to be honest. I have Mr. Brandon brought me a phone a couple days ago. My phone is broken, and he brought me an iPhone, Apple phone, right?
iPhone, yeah.
iPhone. And so I had difficulty using this phone, really, and I couldn't figure out why. My personal phone is a Samsung phone, and I have a Samsung before. So people were calling me, and still the voice was not set up. I'm having difficulty with this phone. And my 5-year-old picked up the phone and she said, "Mom, this is an iPhone, it's an Apple phone. Do you see? It has an Apple. You're used to Samsung." She's 5 years old and she could figure out the difference between Apple and Samsung. So I learned a lesson from a 5-year-old. So I am not that technology oriented, but I do understand that our students do need to be prepared to be able to function in that world of technology and in that global world. And so we want to be a little bit more innovative with 6th grade, since we want to be working on strengthening that curriculum and implementing science. We're looking at a one-on-one, but we don't want to have a one-on-one just to have a one-on-one. So the conversation is, what should that look like? What is our purpose? What we want to achieve with that? So we're hoping to do the same thing with 9th grade. And strengthening culture and climate through implementation of diversity, and we started practice. We're starting this training of diversity in the district, and we started practice. We want to continue that, in addition to the alternative education, would really help to create that climate and culture that's needed in the district. And we'll continue with the reading initiative. As you know, we are very fond of close reading and foundation reading skills that have been very successful for us, and we'll continue to provide those initiatives. The curriculum maps will continue with the revision. This is the opportunity for teachers to give feedback and to revise the map as they implement them in the school. The MAP initiative also, we started that this year. MAP is an area that we're working in. We'll continue with MAP, providing personal learning for teacher, differentiated professional development to teacher and administrators. Meaningful opportunity for parental engagement, and we start doing some of those. We'll restructure the home liaison program a bit, and so you will see that in addition to coffee with the superintendent and firms, we do have monthly meetings in the different communities in the district. So we have meetings in the Natchez district, and we have meeting in the Windham's district, and we have meeting in West Howe, Windham Heights. So every month there is a meeting, in addition to all the others that we do, based on a topic that we think is of interest to the community. And we have partners that support us in that, not only home liaison, UConn sometimes support us with those meetings, Eastern support us, or other organizations in the community. We're very happy about those. And we started this 6th grade of writing initiative, and you may say, well, writing, we all do writing, right? It's the most difficult skills in the language learning, is writing. Don't think because people just write, they're writing. And we started with reading because it was important, but now we are establishing the relationship between reading and writing. And I will just give you a little story. So years ago, when I was a teacher, we learned that we can find the main idea. Where do you find the main idea in the sentence?
The subject.
The subject.
Main
ideas.
The main
idea of the story. Where do we find it?
Where do you find it in the sentence, or where do you find it in the paragraph?
In the
It should
paragraph.
be at the beginning of the paragraph.
In the beginning of the paragraph. Okay. So we all were taught that in school. Even us that are teachers, we're taught that we find it in the main idea, right, Tracy? I mean, in the first sentence of the paragraph. Not anymore. Not necessarily anymore. Okay? It's not in the first sentence of the paragraph. And so no, it's different. So we know we're teaching students to find the evidence to their argument. Where do you see that? So teaching writing is not necessarily what we're doing before, and so now we're looking at tone and voice and things like that. Very, very important, and we're teaching our teachers, very exciting, but I always, when I go around, I smile when I hear students say it's in the main first sentence of the paragraph, because not necessarily anymore. And expand our musical programs. So I want to say I'm very optimistic about the future for Windham Public School. Why not? I mean, the middle school is moving forward, Sweeney is moving forward. I'm very optimistic about the future. And this budget would allow us to provide new learning opportunities and new experiences to our students. And again, a rigorous curriculum that we're working hard, music and art. what are the beliefs that we guided our development of the budget? So we function in some core beliefs, core strategies when we're developing this budget. And the first one is that provide equal access to a rigorous curriculum program to our students. And still, there are work to be done in this area when we look at Natcher versus Sweeney or Sweeney versus Windham, but we function in that core belief. Build staff capacity to ensure student growth, continue to build the capacity of teachers to make sure they can deliver that quality instruction to see our students move from A to Z. Provide opportunities for parents to be actively engaged and create a culture of performance and efficiency. And that culture is changing in the district as we're looking at data and we're establishing a culture of internal accountability in our district. So we have a focus, we have a direction, we know where we're going, we're making improvement. We want now to move to another. So last year we're focus, direction, and improvement. And this year we want to be focus, direction, improvement, and innovation. I mean, the world is becoming more innovative and we have to also be innovative. Next thing is sustainability. How we sustain these things that we want to do. So we don't want to wait to year 5 to think about that. We want to start thinking about it right now. So please give me the opportunity to just show you a bit how the initiatives that we have are tied into our goals of the strategic plan. So I know you will not see dollars here, but the outcome of this is the dollars supporting what we're doing for our students. So give me that opportunity to show you. I'm not going to go over all of this, but I just want to show you the first goal that we have is goal number 1, providing students with equal access to a rigorous curriculum. We have math and writing initiative to support that, curriculum math to support that, expand learning opportunities. We spoke about EDCO and ECE and music in elementary school. So as you see, as we implement these initiatives, they are tied to our goals. So we're not just implementing things to implement them. We look at what is appropriate, what is needed, what are the best strategies to achieve that goal. Goal number 2 is build teacher capacity to ensure student growth. This is to achieve this. We want students to grow, we want students to do well, we have to build the capacity of our teachers. So we spend lots of time in close reading training for our teachers, targeted professional development, a coaching model that is very expensive. We realize that having a data coach, an ELA coach, and a math coach in your building is expensive, but we believe that supporting our teachers in the classroom is also very, very, very important. And we're looking at data team process that we redesigned, and again, is a tool that we use for our internal accountability. Family engagement in our school. We are very respectful and we celebrate diversity. We have the Parent University, that is one that highlight of our district. The next one will be in April, and it's very a highlight of our district. We have our Community Expo, the next one will be in May. We have a partnership with Aspire, the partnership, and we're providing timely information to our parents. Again, we're out there in the community on a monthly basis, having meetings in different communities. Create a culture of efficiency. Really looking at our recruitment of teachers this year. We use a different process, still not where we want to be, but we redesigned the recruitment and the processing of teachers this year. We also still have to work more in technology, but I can show you that we have more computers in this district than we did before, more from each board. Last year we bought about 75 smart board, 75 smart board last year alone for our students and teachers in the district. And we are very in tune of getting data on time to our schools. We have a data director system. We're working on a data dashboard currently, so we provide that information. And the last goal that we just added this year, based on review of the strategic plan, is the goal of culture and climate. And some of you are here are being part of the diversity training. We also have a climate culture training. We have a district attendance team and a district climate team. These are 2 new things that we added this year to discuss attendance and climate in the district. And then that's aligned to the school. Each will have a school attendance and climate team. So how is the budget funded? So you have a little overview of what we're doing. And these things do not happen if we don't have money. These things do not happen. They don't just come from the sky. They just don't jump from the sky. So we need money to do this. That's why I said the budget is the tool that we use to achieve our learning and teaching goals, but to achieve the mission and vision of the district. So how is the budget funded? So there are 3 sources of funding: local, state, and state and federal grants. And I'm not going to go over the numbers, but you have it there. The local funding is 38%. The state funding is 40%, and the state and federal grants is 21%. So this is how it's funded. This is how our budget is. How the budget is spent. As you can see, 80% of the district budget goes to education, meaning it goes to schools, it goes to transportation of students, it goes to teacher salary, it goes to professional development. 80% of this budget goes to school, and 19.6 goes to central services. That includes, salaries, services for contracts, central office, equipment for maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. So how the investment in our schools? So how is the budget allocated to school? So I'm not going to go over these numbers, but you can see there how the budget is allocated to schools. You look at child bearers and you see those numbers look very small, but it's because we have not included in that the STEM grant that Barrows has and the tuition that Barrows has. So if we include the tuition, the out-of-district tuition, and the STEM grant, Barrows would be in the $8 million also. But you can see all the elementary school is 24.5%, middle school is 10%, high school is 13%, central services is 13%, and then we have tuition regular. These are students that go to schools outside of the district, and then we have special education tuition. Any question about these?
Is it still based on per student in each of the schools to be able to come up with that percentage?
Yes and no. Yes and no. And I said no because we start looking at the programs that we have in the district. We start looking at the initiatives that we have in the district. And then we start looking at the per pupil allocation. What I would like to do, that we are not capable of doing, is go to a zero-based budgeting. But that will take, we're not ready to do that. So yes and no. So we start looking at, is there a need at Sweeney that we need? Now, high school, also the per pupil is a little higher because they have different courses. And so that's why that per pupil is a little higher. Chris, did I answer that correctly?
Absolutely.
Good. So I do have my team here with me today. I have Mr. Pabon, that is in certification, Mrs. Begay in Human Resources, Dr. Gilbert in HR, and Mr. Sheffin. So if there's a question I can answer, I'd be happy to give that question to one of my staff members. I'm Mrs. Chady, or Director of Communications.
So the full cost of operating Barrows is not included in the $60,633,000 or
Chris, is
600?
that correct? Is that included?
Right, that is the general fund portion. Then there's about $1 million that's managed by EastCom. They bill and collect our tuition for our districts. I think that's like 23 districts. And they also bill and collect special education for us. It's
Yep.
about 150. So 150 of special education, about 850 to 900 in regular tuition. And that $1 million is managed on their munis system, and we pay them to do that. And then the grant from the state of Connecticut is about $2.6 million, and that's primarily teachers that are funded out of that. And then that is what the taxpayers of Windham pay for that school.
So the grant from the state is included in the $12,981,000?
Yep, and you'll see it actually in the budget book. You'll see the all-inclusive cost
Okay.
of running.
But if you were really going to chart the investment in our schools, you would indicate how that almost $13 million in grants is actually spent.
You can see down below, it's apportioned.
Right, on the bottom.
I mean,
Yeah, but it's not in the table.
It's not in the table, it's down below.
It's not in the graph.
And also in the budget book, you get, the revenue per pupil is based on all-in funds. So it's the general fund plus any grants, any federal, any state, or any other grants are included in the per pupil that you have for each school at the
Okay.
bottom.
Yeah, I understand that, one of our issues here is trying to explain the difference between the general fund budget and the full funds budget. And every year when I read the paper, that's confused and confusing. But, so, I do have a problem when the table, just basically has investment in our schools, and then there's $13 million that's not divided out. Yeah, you've kind of got a footnote at the bottom, but it's,
I think once we move, that's an issue the school district had for years. I think once we move to the new system to set that up, your question is very valid. I mean, your question is totally valid. And so, but the system has dealt with this for years and years and years. I do think that once we move to the new system, we could make sure that we track that much better to do that. But in the table of the schools, we do have in the schools, right?
Yeah, if you go to any school, the
Yes.
front page, the summary page that has, like if you go to NatChart, page 48, you'll see the general fund amount.
Yeah.
And then if you go down, then you'll see the special purpose funds, which are broken out by certified benefits, professional fees.
Yeah,
Those would
okay.
be any federal, state, or other grants that we allocate to that location, so that the per pupil at the bottom, the 13,461.
includes everything.
Is the all
Okay.
funds divided by the enrollment of that school to come up with what we spend on a per pupil basis on a NatChart student. And that's pretty significant, $13,000.
So let me add that last year we did not have that information, and the year before we did not. So every year, my goal is to make the budget much transparent and open and available. That information was not in the budget the year before, or the year before, or the year before. This is the first year that we are putting the summary by school, so you can see how it's spent, the special purpose and the general fund by school, and you can also look at the staffing by school. So the first year. So we expect that maybe we have some little clicks that we have to fix for the following year, but this is the first year. So people can say, okay, how we spend money at NatChart, in years how we spend it at NatChart. How we spend it at Barris, and how we spend it at Barris, and how we spend it at Windham. But point well taken, so maybe for next year, we can look at that chart.
It seems like the charts and tables at the beginning ought to be based on full funds, and then the detail, I agree with the detail showing that the special purpose fund separately from, but it's always been a curiosity to me that we ask the voters to vote on a referendum total that includes a huge chunk of state money that the voters don't really have any control over. That, and so when the voters go to the poll to vote, they're not asked to really vote on the local tax money that they're going to pay. They're given a number that the local tax money is buried in. And then we say, well, it's an X percent increase, but it's an X percent increase of a total that includes $24 to $26 million in state money. And it's not a percentage of our total budget either. It's no wonder people are confused.
If I may, just real quick.
Yes.
The reason we have to approve that full funds budget is because if the state doesn't pay what they say they're going to pay, the town is saying they're still aware they're on the hook for the full funds. So they have to be made aware.
No, that's not a full fund, that's the general fund budget. See, that's the problem. We've got the general fund budget, the full fund budget, then the general fund budget's divided into yeah, you're right. When you look at the total that's the obligation,
Correct. So
And-
they have to
and-
be aware of what they're approving.
which is one of the reasons why the Board of Finance wants to wait and find out what the state's going to do before we ask people to vote, so.
But if I recall, and I could be wrong, so I can be corrected. Years ago when I came, I remember that one of the discussion was that the community will be a little anxious if they hear those big numbers. So in the past, why you guys did not put both numbers was because the community was only voting on the general fund budget. And so now we changed that, we want them to see everything, we want them to know everything.
Well, when they look at what we're spending, they need to see the full funds budget, because otherwise it looks like we're hiding $13 million.
No, we're not.
We're not.
So we're not mentioning that because.
Yeah, so we want to show them that where the money comes from and where it goes.
Okay, Chris, we could fix that. We
Yeah,
could fix,
this
I mean, you're not
chart is-
voting on this
this chart
budget until
is-
next week, so.
We could do it two times. We
Yeah.
could show it this way, and then the allocation of the
Yeah.
instructional.
Remember, this is the opportunity for you to
Now,
give feedback, we're not voting on this budget tonight, so we want to go back and take your feedback and make fixes.
It's just like, since I spent the day at the legislature, at the Education Commission hearings, I heard a lot of people talking about the cost per student in districts all over the state. And you get different numbers depending on how you want to look at it. I mean, we come up with a total cost per student of a little over $18,000 a student if you include everything, including the central services.
Right.
Okay? But then if you look school by school, it's less than that. So when people talk about the cost per student, you have to ask covering what, right? If it's just how much it costs to run, say, just the high school, you get a different number than it does if you say, well, how much does it cost, including the central services? So the numbers that get thrown on the legislature are all over the place, right? The average, one of the people today testified that the average in the state is over $20,000. If that's true, we're doing good. Or we're underfunding, one or the other.
I think it's always good to show the number, not including social services. I mean, I
Yeah.
think in my training as superintendent, the way to show it is exactly what goes into the cost of providing that education. But I think it's better to show this is central services, this is schools. I mean, if the board wants us to change that,
No, it's fine. But people have to really look at, I like the way this is presented this year. I think if we put these tables on the internet, I think people can figure out what we're saying here. And every year, this book has gotten a little better than it was the year before.
And thicker.
Maybe getting thicker, but I think that if we put this up on the website, that people will be able to figure out what we're saying here, which is,
well, I want to thank the team, Janet, and everybody that worked. I mean, our goal was to make it as simple as possible. One of the issues that I heard is people could not understand it, so now it's much easier for people to understand. And so you're right, every year we try to make it better, and we take your feedback, and next year we make it better. Okay. So I think, again, and this is general fund, so I know your comment's going to be, this is not full fund, yes, that can too. But this is how we spend the elementary budget in general fund. You can see the majority goes to instruction, and then we have support, and support includes our nurses, our social workers, our paras, our tutors, etc. Then the principal's office. In the principal office, that means all the clerical support that the principal have and the principal. Then we have maintenance of facilities, etc. So we have done one of these for each of the areas, one for elementary school, one for middle school. Here you can see. And as you can see, the majority of the money always goes to instruction that include teachers and their salaries, etc. And then support is next, and those are again paras and tutors. And then it's principal office. The middle school here, we have co-curricular and athletic activities and co-curricular non-athletic activities, like the clubs and things like that. The high school, we have 47% also go to instruction. And the high school have the same thing as co-curricular, athletics, and also some clubs, etc. We have central services. Here we have personnel and benefits, operating expenses. We have legal, adult education, etc. And this exclude tuition and transportation. What are the budget cost drivers? And the budget cost drivers change over year, but there are some constant in the budget cost drivers. And one of the constants is contractual obligations. I mean, we have to every year, based on contract, we have to make sure that we meet those obligations. So contractual obligations, we're looking at 820 based on the 3%. Medical benefits, pension, etc. Another cost driver that we have no control over. I think we're very conservative in 5%. Mr. French, would you say that it would be higher than 5% this year?
As far as what?
The benefits and pensions and bills.
Yeah, I think our big deal was because we were self-insured on the insurance, we were able to control that driving factor, which was a big win for us. So it would be much higher. On an average basis, back years ago, it used to be anywhere between 12 and 15%.
Right. So I think it's still conservative. The other one is alternative education, and safeguarding this program, not only because of the mandate, but it's because there is a need for the district, really a need for the district. So I'm safeguarding that with all my, strength, what? I'm safeguarding it, and I actually to safeguard the program because it's needed. As we look at the needs of our students, particularly high school, there is a need for that, this program. School staffing requests, and these are the requests that come from all the school-based staffing requests based on the initiative and based on changes in their schools. And special education, again, we always underfund special education in the budget. I mean, every year, before my time, we see how we fund special education in the budget. So this year, based on what we spend and based on the need for items submitted to special education, and then other expenses. So this is the request that we're making for the budget. Going on over. These are some changes in budget lines there. As you can see, the increase or decrease, salaries, again, the contractual obligation, benefits, utilities. We're thinking that Sweeney and the middle school, we gotta have the solar panel. We may save some money there, so we're making that change. Contractual services and operation and building maintenance. So the line of change there. Some reduction in the budget, combining some central office position in the budget. And so far, there's one certified staff position that is not funded in the budget due to attrition. But these are the additional requests that are in the budget. That's $600,000 that you saw there on this page here. That $600,000 school staffing request. So here we're looking at, here are the requests from the school. And these are not all, but I mentioned the junior high school, music, 0.5, bilingual program, we do need about 3 teachers. We will, as we increase the transitional bilingual program, psychology is 0.6 for Windham Center. Academic coach, the high school this year didn't have, I think we need 2 instead of 1. The middle school needed 1, the high school didn't have a coach this year. Consumer science at the middle school, high school, business marketing. They want to expand their curriculum at the middle school, high school, and offer business and offer consumer science. These are courses that are in line with the EC program in one of the buckets for UConn. And so UConn has 4 buckets. And so they have English, and they have social sciences, and we have other. But the consumer science course is a course that is very popular for college students. And so, and there's some other position there that request like building tutor, etc. Back to Mark.
Well, I can tell you that in terms of academic credits in college, colleges will give you academic credit for much of that. Consumer science, is that nothing? Business marketing, nothing. They're not going to buy you an inch in college. It might be of value for students who are not planning to go to college. It might be of value for students in general, but in terms of college credits, you get college credits for English, math, science.
Social studies. Social studies.
Social studies, well, depends on social studies, but things
We have
like,
an AP ECE class here
Yeah.
at the high school, so you'll get
Yes.
college credit from UConn for social studies.
well, it's not social studies general, it's a particular topic, but yes, there are a number of social studies topics that colleges will give you credit for.
I'd be happy to go over this with the high school tomorrow and get back to you on this one, but this came directly from the high school. And one of the tasks that the high school has is they met with the coordinators at the EC program at UConn based on my directive. We always hear that somebody has 20 credits or 30 credits for UConn, but not necessarily have the first full year of general studies at UConn. So what we're trying to do is if the students take the EC courses, they could fulfill their first full year of courses here in the high school for UConn, and they could go year 2, 3, and 4. That requires that we fill the different buckets that UConn has, humanities, social sciences,
Yeah, there's 7.
et cetera. I will start looking at that. We have a meeting with them to say, okay, where do we have courses? For example, we don't fulfill the math bucket because we don't have people certified to that curriculum. And we do have people in social sciences. We have people in English. We have professional teachers that are certified through UConn to do that. But these are the courses that came, I don't know exactly what bucket this is, but I can go back and look, that are recognized by UConn in the core,
It's not,
general core.
well, I mean, I chaired the General Education Committee at UConn for 3 years, so I know what UConn will take, but I also know, what state universities in general will take, which is pretty much the same things. But I think that in terms of where we invest our resources, given that we don't have a lot to invest, the focus, our best focus is on those things that are usable in the most places. So if a student wants to go to UMass or Penn State or the University of Delaware, they should be able to take those credits with them and not have a problem getting, benefit from them.
Well, I will think that if the course is an EC course from the university.
If they take calculus, they're fine. If they take world history, they're fine. If they take Spanish, they're fine.
Okay.
You know,
So
there's
why
a lot
not
of
get
stuff we
that
can-
and send it out to the entire board, but I would hope that if they take a course at UConn, it will be accepted at Eastern and UMass. Right?
Pretty much.
I mean,
If it's a core course, but I can tell you, business marketing, nobody takes. Because that's an upper division topic.
they used to have a DECA program.
We used to have a
Yeah,
DECA
it's a
program
great
here.
program, and it needs to come back. Not everybody's going to college, and there's young entrepreneurs
Yeah,
that want to get started, and that's the way to go.
That's a different question.
Right,
okay?
just don't say it's for ECE, that's all.
Yeah.
I think consumer science, we have kids that graduate from here who don't know how to balance a checkbook. They can do Algebra 2, but they can't balance a checkbook. They have no idea how to start filing their taxes or, life skills that they need to have. I think consumer science might be absolutely important, but we can't call it an ECE class, I think is Dr. Sewell's.
But let me double check, don't give up that yet, because I think it's in one of the buckets, so I have to double check. Okay, so on the business, like I said, the DECA program heroes, it's wonderful, kids love a DECA program.
No, kids did love the DECA program, and there was
But I could-
picketing in the streets to stop it from being removed by Dr. Adamowski. However, the funding wasn't there at the time. If that's what we're going to bring it back for, fine, bring it back, call it DECA, don't call it ECE, that's all.
But what happened if it served an EC credit?
If it serves an ECE credit, then just prove it to us.
That's great.
Yeah, that's even better.
Okay, good. Definitely, we need some investment in technology. And again, I want to think about technology totally different, not only about the smart board and the software. It's really think about the great things that kids can do with technology. So as we look at, if we want to have a one-on-one, it's still having a Chromebook, but there's a lot of things over there like Z-Space. Are you guys heard about Z-Space? So many things out there that kids can do with technology. Okay, so we're getting to the fun part of this, and is the request. And the request for the general fund, again, we may want to change this, but we need to come up to a consensus. Again, what we heard is that the community don't want to hear the big number. They just want to hear the number that relates to them. And so this is the number that relates to them for the general fund, is 47,681,192, an increase of 3.8 over the 216,817 budget. So I'm not going to go over this because we do want to give you some time to have a discussion, and I think I did answer why the 3.8 increase. But again, I just want you to take into consideration that if you approve this budget, you'll have the opportunity to price to know whatever your course from, provide them with the courses that they do need to enhance our music program, our dual language program, and these are all opportunities that our students do need. Thank you. So this is the time for question, feedback, and suggestions.
Dr. Gomez?
Yeah, I think it was 2 days ago, we kind of thought that 3.8 was just too much.
Yes.
It probably would not be successful.
Yes.
So you were to bring some other recommendation
Yes.
on lowering this 3.8.
Yes.
Which I don't see. It may be because I'm
You
going
haven't
blind
seen
or
it,
what.
but I do have it.
Okay.
I do have it. So what you have seen there is Plan A. That's what we developed, and I have to respect the wishes of my team and the needs of the school. So Plan A is this. So we also have Plan B. That was your request to respond to you. So what I want to give you right now is Plan A and Plan B. This is Plan A. Yep.
Thank you.
So Plan A is the superintendent's budget based on the needs. Plan B.
Plan A?
Plan B is your request.
Plan A, do we have Plan A?
Yeah, here.
These are all the same?
That's all it said, that's Plan A.
Plan A.
Anybody else?
I wanted to make sure there wasn't a second page I was missing.
No, and here is Plan B.
Please destroy this after you look at it.
It doesn't
Plan B.
self-destruct.
I need 50. Thanks.
Johnny needs to get a copy of Plan A and Plan B for her records.
B is already up, I'm still waiting.
Plan B?
Plan A, you have Plan A and Plan B, Mr. Power?
Yep.
We do not have Plan B yet. Ms. Haney's holding it up.
I have more copies of Plan B.
Yeah. They need to
No, not really.
Anyway,
Suzanne, you want to? Wait, can I hand this? This is a public document.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah, it's public. You have Plan A, Suzanne?
Here, I got Plan Bs. I got Plan Bs. One for you, one for Neil, just so we're on the same
Tiene
page.
tu amigo.
Plan C.
Not yet.
do we have Plan C yet?
That's after the first referendum.
Well,
I have some extra copies of Plan B, if
Is that B?
anybody needs them.
Yeah, I have Plan B over here also.
Okay, so Plan A is the plan that she does, was just presented to you, and so, and then Plan B is with some reductions here. So we're reducing, the budget by 176,000, and what you can see there is the reduction that we're making. And by the way, these reductions are coming from the new requests, meaning it's that current staffing that we are reducing. So this reduction, there was an $850,000 request from staffing. We already reduced some of that for the original budget presented to you. Okay, so we went back now and reduced it by $175,000, so only $600,000 left. But I want to make sure that you understand that these are not cutting current position, these are new requests, so we're cutting new requests.
So
But the
the,
600,000 were there already.
The $600,000 is
Plan
there,
A, that's what I
is in
said.
Plan A, right.
So.
and Plan B is $175,000 less.
425.
I
Yes.
cut 175,000 in Plan
Yes, the lease for 125.
Yeah, it will be 425,
left,
because we already have 600 in Plan A.
Yes.
Plan A.
right.
So here's the interesting part of this. If you look at page 16, we're looking at a decrease of state money of just a little over $1 million. That's alliance funding, correct?
Alliance.
It's 3 grants, Dr. Scola.
3 grants?
It's,
State grants?
It's a
Yep.
percentage, a 5% reduction in a estimated rescission on Alliance. It's the loss of the ELL pilot, and it's the loss of...
The young parent, the young parent,
Okay,
the young parent program.
so how much is the alliance rescission? What's that total?
If you go to page, there's a grant, it starts on page 17 and it goes to page 19. And on page 19, you'll see the big reductions in the state that we're estimating. So line 606
Yep.
is the ELL pilot, which is one-time grant from.
Yep.
Right.
That's going.
That's
We
leaving.
expect,
Special
every year
master.
they cut into our magnet school slightly. So we estimated 120 coming out of the magnet school funding. And then the other big one is the special master.
Special master.
Ends.
Yep.
We got notification of that, so that's 359. And
Yep.
then the other ones are just estimates of either 5% or 2.5%, or it's going away entirely. For instance, the after-school programs will cut by 50%. Also family resource at WS and Natchog will be cut by 50%.
50%, right.
So some of these are estimates of between 2.5 and 5, and others are actual known facts based on what we heard from the state. But all told, we're estimating slightly over $1 million in
I see that.
funding.
Okay.
And we don't know about federal. Dr. Garcia mentioned some things the other day about federal, we just don't know yet.
Okay, Chris, the Alliance grant, when we did the estimate of 2.5, did we take out the $100,000?
The base would have that. So the current year, this year, 16-17, would have that $100,000 reduction.
But I thought
And
then, but I thought it was 2.4 million. Should it be 2.3 million? Because we took out 100 million?
I don't know, I have to double check on that.
Okay.
Just to make sure, because I'm not 100% certain, but I'm
Because
thinking
weren't we
we
cut in
had already
December?
taken the 100,000 out of that.
We were
And
cut
We
in
were
December.
cut in December.
We were cut in December.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So it's, based on the hearings that I've been to in the last couple of weeks, my semi-informed guess is that the legislature is going to end up more or less static. You know, there's the unhappy towns that don't want to accept any cut, And the only way you can get an increase to the districts that the governor proposed increasing would be to take money away from other districts, none of whom want to give up any, right? So if you total it all up, the legislature comes out stalemated, which essentially means that we're more or less where we were a year ago. There's a possibility that we'll get some of that $1 million back, but it's not in the general fund side of the budget.
No.
So if we go to the taxpayers and say we need an increase of, either 1.7 or $1.5 million, and then the legislature comes through with $100,000 or so that we hadn't expected, but it's in the grant side, what do we do?
Well, the grant money is very constrained.
It's
It has
We should
constrained.
reduce our request to the town by that much.
It's constrained. I mean, so if we don't have the money for the resource center, that means that we'll have to cut the resource center. It's not going to be there. Okay, so if the money comes, that means that we can keep the resource center. I am very concerned about the after-school program. That's one of the ones I'm very concerned.
And the young parents program, too.
And the young parents program. But the after-school program is a combination of our state grants and the United Way and et cetera, and our local funding. But if we don't have those 21st century grants and those other, the after-school program could be in trouble.
That's huge in our district.
Well, otherwise we have children going home to empty houses.
Right. That's huge. We
And
have,
then we have tragedies.
and then with the young parents program, we have mothers that depend on the daycare here, that they bring their kids in order to continue their education. So that's huge.
Why was that grant cut, do we know?
Christian?
The young parents.
program.
Well, in the new proposal of the governor, he has combined a lot of grants. And necessarily when he combined those grants, he didn't increase the money.
The YPP program.
The white, so that's what happened.
But a lot of those combined grants, the legislature's not going to pass, which may means that when they get back to the total, they'll end up refunding the grants again, so.
But we can't count on that. We can only count on
Okay,
what we know right
but when you
now.
look at the young parents program, if we can't find, what's it, 20,000?
Yeah.
20.
If we can't find that in a $60 million budget, there's something wrong with us. We need to be able to find that
Do we have
money.
numbers on how many students per year that services?
I think currently, Susan, how many we have? About 12? How many we have in there now?
Right now, currently enrolled 13.
13.
13. You say another 12 or 13, good.
Do we have a projection of enrollment for this coming year?
Following school year.
Yes.
We have a number graduating either this year or the spring, but I don't have that number up.
Okay.
I can get it.
Dr. Garcia, one of the things on page 19, number 610, is the special master funding going away.
Yes.
Does that mean they no longer have a say in your contractor evaluation?
No,
No, it doesn't mean that, or yes, it does mean that?
doesn't mean that.
Ms.
The money's
Osuba,
going
that's
away.
probably something you need to have a conversation with then.
The original contract with them
Absolutely.
on her
Was
situation
$750
Yeah.
for 3 years, yeah.
for 3 years,
$350,000.
but the evaluation part of it went to 2019.
Right.
If you read what they passed.
I was there when it happened, but my concern
If
is
it's
now, if they're
going
not going
away.
to give us the money, then they don't get to have an evaluation process over you.
Right.
They're not going to contribute to your salary and the
That's
needs
not
that
what
you
the
have in
agreement
this
says.
district.
That's not what they voted,
Right, but the
Says-
agreement also said
says 2,000
$750,000 per year.
for 3 years. It's 3 years.
It's 3 years.
Then
But they specified the evaluation part for 5.
For 5. And
Yeah.
have they participated in the evaluation
Oh,
the
yeah.
past year?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
2 more years.
Oh, yes, they have.
Yeah.
So that's a conversation you need to have, that
yeah.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
they want this, then they've got to give us something towards it. I'm disappointed that this number has decreased that much even.
Yeah,
If they want this, then
definitely.
they've got to give us something
Yeah.
for it. We've shown progress, there's no need for
A
us to
huge
stay on that
progress.
if they don't have the money to give us.
We've shown so much progress that, you might want to share this,
Go ahead.
that they changed data in order not to show so much progress that we did.
It wasn't the state, though.
It wasn't the
There
state.
was a study.
Very
done-
disappointing.
There was a study done of the 30 Alliance District recently, and we came up number 1 of the 30 Alliance District. And they were screaming,
Yeah.
screaming the other district, so. When the
So-
report, when the
Give
report
us some
came.
resources and look what we can do. Can
Exactly.
we go
We
back
came-
and tell them that?
Yeah, well,
We've
but-
seen it. We've seen it in Nassau years ago.
But part of the problem is that we're at risk of not being in the bottom 30.
Right, I understand.
And
that's how we
then we lose the whole
We lose
Alliance
funding,
budget.
exactly.
That's one of the reasons they're playing games with it.
Right, I understand, but But I think that's something, Mrs. Suba, as the chair, that you should go
Oh,
to
absolutely.
Commissioner Wenzel and say, what's the deal here?
We're actually, that's my topic of conversation and executive meeting, because I'm very concerned about them taking away money. And we're supposed to be improving, which is exactly what we're doing, but because we're improving so nicely, they're taking away money.
Right.
Prove our way out of $2 million.
So, I mean, you're damn if you do and you're damn if you don't, so,
All right,
I
we're on
mean,
TV.
Well,
it's very frustrating because we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. But we still need the money in order for us to keep improving. But definitely, that's topic of conversation with the commissioner.
and my conversations with legislatures indicates that they're not prepared for success. They're sort of startled. It hasn't occurred to them that a district might succeed.
When you give them the resources they need.
And then what do you do? I mean, someone else has to join the bottom 30, but then how do you take care of that?
Well, then we should be rewarded.
Well, we shouldn't be penalized to the extent that we'll be back right away into the bottom 30. I mean, that's,
Do we have more questions? Like,
Please,
Can I ask? Okay.
please, yes. we
So
want to-
Chris, I just want to get clarity. So starting from 605 on page 19, all the way to 650, those are all cuts that we're looking at?
Well,
Yeah.
Everything in parentheses is cuts.
My grants person,
Yep.
Yes.
Nancy, who
Yes.
knows what's been, the trends that are being seen at the state, has estimated anywhere, rescissions of anywhere between 2.5% to 5% on certain grants. And then the ones that we really know are going away, we've taken those out.
Okay.
So that's, would be the ELL pilot, that would be the special master, that would be the 50% cuts at the resource centers. And then the other ones are pretty much estimates of what we've seen this year, rescissions.
Mrs. Suba, if you turn the page, there's more on the next page.
Oh, I know. That's why I was,
So,
oh.
yes, they're chipping away at us every
Yes,
year.
that's a lot of money.
They, say that they're going to give us the same amount as the previous year, like Alliance. But then at the end, it turns out, in the middle of the year, that they pull out some.
Well, we know that Magnet School operating is going to decrease.
Yes.
We know Magnet School we know that. That's not going to happen. Okay, so we know that Special Master Fund, we know that it's going to be the school-based health center. And remember last year, in the middle of last year, remember that they did not give us, there was a reduction of some of these grants already. Remember, so when we started last year budget, we have about, was $1,300,000, and 800 was in grants and 500,000 was
About
from,
800,000.
800, yeah, was from the
This year.
town. Right.
School-based health center, I sit on the board of directors for that. They experienced a decrease last year. They're anticipating a significant one this year. They're looking at other sources of revenue, but nothing concrete has come through yet. What would be great is the students that do have insurance, if the school-based health center could bill them. But there's some snafu about billing for services versus billing for a provider. Lynn Weeks can explain this, Lynn Weeks can explain this better because she's the head of this from the hospital. But they're expecting a significant decrease again this year in the school-based health center, which I'm sure is what's reflected in here. If they could bill, like the hospital bills, if you go into the emergency room, you get a site fee and a doctor fee. They can only bill for one here, and it's not technically going through the hospital, so there's some legal matters that are tying
Yeah.
this up right now. It's been something Lynn and Susan have been working on for 10 years or
10
so.
years, yeah.
But then the hospital changed ownership, and so we have to start all over again. So it's something they are working on, though. So hopefully, at some point, they'll at least be able to break even. And their goal is, if they can, and come out in the positive, to be able to offer summer services and summer programs, do the physicals throughout the whole summer for sports and stuff like that, instead of the last 3 days before school starts, and, all those kind of things. And provide health physicals and stuff like that to just anybody, not just the people who are a part of the school-based health center, but that's the long-term challenge that they're facing right now.
You know that all of these cuts are
They affect kids.
very,
Every
very,
single one of them.
we have to look at them very carefully. But the one that concerned me a lot is, one of the ones that concerned me a lot is after-school program. If you take a look at after-school, we're looking at a 50% cut in after-school programs.
And
So it's alarming, it's very alarming, all of these costs are alarming, but, after-school program for me is one that is very, very alarming.
okay, so between that and the Young Parents Program, that's $100,000 we have to find.
Right.
For where are we with Plan B?
Okay, you're right. Thank you, Dr. Gomez. So, yes, so the discussion, this is Plan B. You guys asked me for a Plan B, so here is Plan B. So now the discussion is, do you accept Plan B?
But this is not right. If you're saying that we reducting 175,000.
From that,
From what? From the
from the
school
47,
staffing?
from the 47, from general fund.
But you mentioned school staffing. When Dr. Sugar said, where is this being,
These are.
It says two building substitutes and a maintenance contract.
So the breakout, Dr. Gomez, is 61,200 for 2 building substitutes and 113,800 in contract/maintenance.
And so let me say about the contract
For a total of
maintenance.
175.
Let me talk about the contract maintenance a little bit. Last year, when the town cut us that $500,000, we had to cut this maintenance contract services and maintenance. So we went back this year and put it back into the budget. Because when we were cut $500,000 last year, this is one of the areas we cut. So what we did now is went back and put it into the budget again this year.
So exactly what is this we're talking about? Talking about sustained maintenance of what, equipment?
Basically,
Yeah.
skimping on some maintenance.
Maintenance, right.
Okay.
For the buildings.
but aren't there any safety issues with maintenance?
Well, of course, we want to make.
I don't know.
No, we'll make sure that the building are safe. And the other two is building sub, and one of the things the schools are doing in the district that we agree, I supported, that every building will have at least 2 building subs.
Okay, so maintenance is, you're really talking about deferred maintenance here when you
Yeah.
drop the contracts, right? And there's a limit to how long you can defer maintenance without starting to have, something starts to break. It may not be a safety issue, but it's still broken.
And it'll get worse.
So eventually, deferred maintenance is going to catch up with you. The building substitutes, it seems to me that you made the case for them, that children are still going to have to be taught. If we don't have building substitutes, we're going to do what? Pay Kelly Services?
Yeah.
So we're not really going to save the money.
Because we're still paying out.
Yeah, we're going to end up with the need for substitutes, and we're going to end up paying for temporary services, and it's going to end up back in the budget. I mean, this is the thing where you can make like it's not in the budget, but it's really going to get paid for anyway. It's kind of the sort of thing that happens every year. We say, well, we're going to reduce the transportation budget, we're going to figure out a way to squeeze the bus schedule, and then it turns out it never squeezes. It's like trying to get blood out of a turnip.
Well,
You know?
because this is a very unique school district. It's a very unique school district. And so during the year, we get a lot, not a lot of percentage, but we get newcomers for special ed. We get kids moving all over the place. And so because of the uniqueness of school district, we do project in the budget, but it's not final projection because there are things that happen that we have no control over. And so, we get 5 new students in special ed, and one is in Hartford, and the other one is in New London, and the other one is in East Con. We have no control over that. Where the other one will go to, Miguel? Hartford, New London, East Con, where else?
East Hartford, there's a school.
East Hartford, yeah.
Our students go
Everywhere.
surprised at how far they go.
They go everywhere.
One of them goes to Hartford American School of Deaf. Another one goes to River Street in Windsor. One of them goes to Massachusetts.
Oh, sure.
I mean, they go far.
Well, there are things that happen, and so far, we've been able to figure out some way, somewhere to balance things out, deferred hiring, or one thing or another, but there's still a question about how tightly you can squeeze this thing without ending up in a situation where it gets embarrassing in the middle of the year.
Mrs. Lambert?
Are you done, Dr. Slade?
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't want to interrupt you, I'm sorry. I just did the per pupil increases and decreases from last year, and some of them seem, reasonable. Like Nat Jog went up $40, and they've lost 2 students projected, so those are great. But the high school has a loss of $238, which isn't significant, but an increase proposed of 40 students. Now, in the past 2 years, they have gained more students than was proposed in the budget. and they have stayed either constant or very slightly increased. We've taken on the whole ECHO program, which does have a cost set to it. And I haven't nearly looked at this budget book. We got it on Friday. I had a crazy weekend and a crazy work week, so I haven't nearly looked at this like I'd like to. But they've gone up by 40 students, and they're decreasing their budget by $238. That doesn't seem like real math, like we can make that work. There may be reasons, but I just like an explanation. And also that the per pupil spending for the elementary schools has about a $2,000 variance, with Sweeney being at $14,152 per year and Windham Center being at $12,715. And they all have -2, -7, -1, and -11 for, they're all planning on losing a small amount of students. And that can be very, I mean, we could get a ton of kindergarten, registrations come August,
children from
September,
Puerto Rico.
October even. Exactly, and that could change those numbers, I understand that. But why such a variance in per pupil spending?
For Sweeney and Windham Center, the answer to that, I'm pretty sure, Chris, is because Sweeney has
I'm Tracy, I'm not
the program.
We lost some grants, it looks like, at the high school that's driving it down. So that's, it went down, by $100,000 about, the grants, but overall, we are pumping $526,000 more into the general fund money which is driven by the increase in the per pupils. It's the fact that the grants are going in the opposite direction there that's causing that effect.
So let's look at Sweeney and Windham Center. I think
I'll
Sweeney and
look
Windham
at
Center.
That's where the biggest variance was between Sweeney and Windham Center.
Because-
They're all, I mean, they're not that far apart. Like I said, they're within $2,000 of each other. But why?
Sweeney has the medical fragile program.
Okay,
Yep.
see, all right,
That
that's a
Windham Center
reasonable
doesn't have.
explanation.
Garcia
That's
said
what I was looking
That's one of the
for.
elements we factor in. It's not a strict per pupil.
Right.
Even though we tell people, we say, hey, if they have an autism or a DASD program or medically fragile program,
Yeah.
we're going to fund that at the level it needs to be funded at, regardless of the per pupil. So sometimes the fact that one school will have that specific program will give it more money than another
other
school
schools
that doesn't have
have it.
a program like
To run the
that,
program.
specialized program.
Right.
And also, the third layer is we might have initiatives like those those $600,000 in heads that are placed into certain locations that are also not part of, that formula. So that can cause bumpiness in the per pupil, depending on where the initiatives are and where those programs are. So even though I start out with the fact everybody's level, or I
Right.
look at that
Yeah.
Right.
as a starting point.
And I understand that, it was just a question. I don't want,
Good question.
I don't want somebody to look, if they go on, Zillow or something and say, well, we're definitely moving into the Sweeney area because they're spending the most on their elementary students.
Yeah.
Or people start moving apartment-wise, which we know they already do multiple times in a year, to see which school they want their children to attend. But my bigger concern is that the high school, which is going up a decent amount in student population for next year, is
Yeah.
working at a deficit. And they're already squeezed pretty tight, the Guidance Counselor Association, like their version of CABE, recommends 250 students to every guidance counselor. We have 2 guidance counselors, and we're proposed to be up over 600 students next year if we go up 40.
Yeah. However, if you take a look at the high school, last year we gave them we gave them 2 additional,
What page are you?
page 116.
116.
If you take a look at the high school, last year they requested about 7 new positions, but we gave them 2 positions in certified and 2 positions in non-certified. And for next year, for 17-18, we're giving them 3.5 more position in certified. So they're getting 3.5 teachers in certified for next year.
Well, that's good, but it's got to be coming from somewhere else if their budget is going down by $238 per pupil.
They're losing some
so.
grants. I forgot what grant they're losing, but they're losing some of the grants that they have.
In the middle school, I'm assuming that the $1,105 deficit is because they're getting rid of an administrator?
They're getting a new administrator?
They're getting rid of an administrator. You said we're only going to 2 houses
No,
for
two
6th
No,
grade?
no.
I think there's two effects that we're
No.
seeing here. On the one hand, the enrollment numbers are declining by 17, so that reduces the amount that's going into that school. Plus, I think, is it the Commissioners Network that's being reduced?
The Commissioner
Yes.
Network, Commissioner
So
Network.
that's also
Yeah.
factoring in from 16, 17 to 17, 18. You see a reduction of about
Where's the middle school?
470,000
Yeah.
in special purpose funds. So that's also factoring in to the So, yes, there is a decline there, and that's driven by both the Commissioners Network and the loss of enrollment.
Yeah, but we are not, as you take a look at page 104, we did budget for administrator at the middle school.
Okay, well, if you take a look at page 96, between last year and this year, there's a $107,608 deficit in administrator. That's why I assumed we were eliminating a position according to that page.
No, it's
No.
not. No.
So somebody's getting some serious pay cuts then.
No. It's, essentially.
Page 96,
Well, she's right, she's right.
111.
She's right.
Administrator.
We're not losing any administrators.
111.
Typically, I factor in some turnover, vacant positions, and openings at both the high school and the middle school, and they tend to be either system-wide or specific to that location. And when you look at it, really, it comes in almost exactly at that number from year to year as we put in some attrition factors, turnover factors. I can't tell you which position it is.
Right, I understand that, but I don't,
But it does look like that, but we're not really.
I don't think in administration you're having a turnover of $107,000.
You're right.
And you have 4 administrators there, right? 3 city leaders and a principal.
This is something we have done for a couple of years that I think is not a good strategy. And we have been trying to eliminate it, and Darlene is here, so Darlene can give me some of the numbers. As we reduce the number of late hiring, meaning one of our goal is to have teachers in place beginning of school. And I remember year 1 when I came in, we have a lot of vacancies. So that's a saver of money for the district. If teachers are not here on day 1, then we save in money.
Right.
But that's not the way to save money.
Right.
We want the teachers to be here day 1 in their building, in their classroom, ready. So I think what Chris has done is looking at over the years, the turnover of the middle school. But I will say, Darlene, you're here, the turnover this year was much less than the year before. So that money that we were saving with turnovers are not happening as solid as before. This is a dangerous, I think, pathway that we know, okay, when we save money with turnover, is a really dangerous strategy.
But we're asking the public to approve this budget, and if they're looking through this budget, and I know not everybody's going to sit down and go through it like we are, but if somebody's looking through this budget, they're thinking you're eliminating administrator at the middle school.
No. So-
But I'm just
so we
saying,
fix
that's
that.
what the
You're right.
numbers reflect.
Page 96.
No, it's true, but
I'm not blaming you,
No.
Chris, I'm just asking the question. That's why I assumed, looking at these numbers, that you were eliminating administrator, and that was the cost driver for bringing down the per pupil expenditure by 1105.
And also, thank you for bringing that point to us. This number contradicts with page 104, because 104 has 4 administrators. If you take a look.
Right.
Yes.
But it still says it has a decrease there.
Exactly. So you have 104.
Reposition that, please.
So,
If you're eliminating personnel, then put it under personnel. If you're eliminating an administrator, put it under administrator. I understand that it needs to show up somewhere. I understand that it's, a data sheet essentially, and that the data has to work to come to the bottom number. But if we're asking people to approve something, we should be putting valid information out there.
We haven't eliminated anyone from the middle school.
so did you say the Commissioners Network is decreased from this year to next year?
We expect it to be.
Because that's not what it says on page 19.
It says that we won.
Page 19.
Yeah, page 19 has the Commissioners Network flat at 340,000. So if that's not matching up with, because you don't actually show the Commissioners Network as a separate entry on the,
Yeah, no, so I have to go take a look and see what other grants that we allocate to the school.
No,
Precinct.
yeah.
The spreadsheet, which takes the 14 million and spreads.
I mean, I can believe the Commissioners Network numbers, except that on page 19, it basically is, and we don't know for sure what we're getting this year for Commissioners Network, correct? That hasn't been,
That hasn't been done.
so we're hoping to get as much this year as we ended up with.
What grant reductions are hitting the middle school.
Yeah,
I
okay.
thought it was the Commissioners Network, but it's other ones.
Okay, I have a couple more questions, if I may. On page 44, travel has more than doubled from $20,100 to $49,574.
Is that again?
Page 44, line 580.
Okay, so 44, yeah, that is, and if you look at the back, there's a page 122. I'm sorry, I didn't.
It's okay.
Put a footnote there too, but I put it there. The increase in travel,
Recruitment of teachers.
if you look down at 5, we're
Recruiting teachers.
580.
recruiting teachers, something I think we didn't budget for this year, but are budgeting for next year.
Okay.
Is that HR with a team of people goes and tries to recruit ELL, is it ELL teachers? or-
Yeah,
That's
we didn't have a budget for that last year.
So
So we're doing it
we're
this
talking
year.
about recruiting in Puerto Rico, which is,
240,000.
Darlene, I'm going with you on that next trip. Do you understand me?
That's what it says there.
You can stay at
This
one.
Florida tan's got to stay.
580, look at
580, yeah.
Yeah.
580, okay.
285,000.
Yeah, I think at least one member of the Board of Finance should go too.
it's a really nice casino in San Juan.
Well, we could go to a casino here, if you're going to go to San Juan.
But
don't go to
by
San
the
Juan.
way, but this is not only travel to Puerto Rico, may I say.
It's travel.
Travel all over the place to,
Hawaii, I'm in for Hawaii too. What did you say?
we're not may spend that.
No, it's not all for Puerto Rico. You're taking the whole HR team that is grant funded to Puerto Rico.
44.
Another question, number 610, instructional supplies went from 500 to 35,000.
Excuse me?
Number, on the same page, 44, number 610.
Now, that's a decrease
The decrease.
from 35,000 to only 500. So did we move instructional supplies somewhere else?
It's an increase of
That's an increase.
34,500. Thank
Oh.
you, that's what I said.
I'll have to go look at what's
610.
requesting that.
It's
Okay.
going from 500 to 35,000.
It's not a decrease, Dr. Sewell, it's an
Oh, no, I'm
increase.
looking, I got my columns backwards, yeah, you're right.
It might be one of those ones, again, that we impacted when we said 500,000 was cut from the budget. There were several lines that we pulled that from to get the Board of Finance's reduction of 500,000.
Okay.
So it could be, I'm going to tell you specifically, but that was one of the lines that maybe we pulled out of to get the 500,000. I think we pulled from contracts, from maintenance, and potentially from this line.
So did we really just spend $500 in instructional supplies for
For
an
an entire
year?
year. Do you know how many pencil I've donated to Wyndham Public Schools over the years?
That's central office, these are not schools.
Right, yeah, no, this is central
Central
office
office,
we're
not
looking at.
schools, no.
Yeah, I know it's central office, but even central office,
Numbers make no sense.
We're doing a lot of color copies. Is this all color copies?
There's a lot of things that don't make sense, Dr. Gomez, when they just tell us to cut 500,000.
I understand. And then I have two more questions, and then I will be quiet for the rest of the meeting, as quiet as I can be. Number 640, textbooks, library software. Is this where you put the Chromebooks that you wanted to buy, or is that
yeah.
somewhere else? That's a considerable increase, from 7,220 to 218,820.
So those have some, part of the Chromebook that we want to put.
Okay. All right, I want to know where it was coming from, that's all. I didn't know if it came into capital,
Part of it.
Tracy, I'm going to give you what line
Is the-
items we pulled the 500,000 from, so you can see.
thank you, I appreciate that.
That way you know how it impacted our baseline and why it looks like we're growing a lot in certain areas when we're not really.
Okay.
It's just that it was abnormally low this year because of those reductions.
Yeah, but the issue is, we pull it out, so you didn't see it in the budget, but we put
Right.
it back, so people are looking at those numbers and going, oh.
I perfectly understand, but if
Yeah.
we're going to vote on a budget, I
How
want to
would
know
anybody know?
why something's
Right.
going up by a significant amount when we're cutting from buildings. Do you know what I'm saying? If there's a reason for it, travel to, recruit bilingual teachers, I am 100% behind that, but I need to know what the reason is behind
And
it
math
before I vote on it.
teachers and things like
Right.
that, yeah.
And my final question, if I may, is in the capital improvement plan, and I know we don't have that in front of us right now, we talked at the last meeting about solar panels on top of barrows. There are solar panels on top of barrows. I went back to my office at home and pulled out the book from when I was on the committee. Paula and I were saying when we left the meeting, like, there are solar panels on top of barrows. There are definitely solar panels on top of barrows. There are solar panels on top of barrows, so that should not be in the capital improvement plan.
There's solar panels in
Are there
the
solar panels on top of that?
Freaking solar panels on top of barrows, people.
Yeah, but
I
is there-
know. I
is
have been
there-
on the roof because there was an issue with the
You've been on the
contractor.
roof?
I've been on the roof and I didn't fall despite the fact people
Wow.
tried to push. There are resistors in front of windows that shouldn't have been put there, that the contractor put there, and Wayne went back and forth. So when Ms. Osuba said, I thought there were too, but there's no solar panels. I've been there, I've seen them, the resistors are in front of the windows, and so that is not something that should be in capital improvement. If there's more that's needed, that's fine, that's how we justify it. If it's going to bring down our cost savings on our utilities, then we justify it. That's fine, but I don't want to put erroneous information out there. And I don't want anybody thinking that there's no solar panels on top of Barrows that they paid for in the first place. And Mr. Donaldson, I'm sure will back me up on that, because he was on the roof with me.
I think I remember him saying that they were related to the water heating.
It's possible, I don't know what they were related to, but.
So the question is there capacity on the roof to expand the solar panels?
And if so, is that really a necessity this
Capital
year?
improvement plan.
When we're cutting budget from the high school and adding
I don't have the
students?
capital improvement plan with me.
We didn't put that in there.
That's where we talked about it at the last meeting,
Well-
yes.
Possible savings there.
Yeah.
So what we need is clarity on, what is it, if we have solar panels in there, which I thought we did, what is it doing, number one? And what is it that we need?
Well, I guess the question would be, if we have solar panel, why is the electricity so high at Barrows?
Yeah, it's
What was
huge.
the microgrid? Was in that?
The microgrid was at the middle school in Sweeney.
And Sweeney.
Yeah.
And that
And
creates
Sweeney.
a cogen it creates
For that
electricity
area.
all year round, but it's specifically there in case there's a state emergency. They can go to middle school, and no matter what's going on the electrical grid, have power and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was the microgrid
We have
project.
one of those regional storms that
Right.
eliminates electric power.
Like Superstorm
over a
Sandy, when
large
it knocked
area.
out power everywhere, that was a place you could go, get showers, charge your electronics, have a safe place to sleep, those kind of things. But there are solar panels
Yeah.
on Barrows.
And the area of panels in the microgrid at the middle school is way larger than, so.
Well, it's also, designed 7 years more recent, too. Barrows has been open for, this is their 4th year, so
Yeah.
in the design process, that was 7, 8, 10 years ago. It
Yeah,
took a while to
still,
get the magnet school built, so.
That's true. But
If
I
it
wouldn't be
needs
surprised
upgrading-
if the electrical panels on Barrows are there solely heating water.
That's fine, and if we need to upgrade them or update them or add more for other reasons, save us in utilities in the long run, I'm sure the Board of Finance will understand that, but I can't see
Yeah.
cutting money from the high school to spend on more solar panels when there's already
No,
some
wait a
there.
minute. You're talking about the difference between operating budget and capital
I
budget.
understand.
It's
Capital
not,
improvement budget, yes.
I understand that, but when the voters go and vote on a final thing, they're looking at the number for the, and I understand the capital budget's separate. I've done this as long as you have, Dr.
they've been
Sewell.
managed separately. That, it's not part of the capital budget is not generally part of a referendum.
I understand that.
It's a town meeting.
But they're still looking at that number, and when people go to vote, they know that the Board of Finance approved X number of dollars, and the Board of Ed wants X number more to pay for their schools or whatever. So it's still a lump that the voters are thinking about.
So let's go back to Plan B. Do you have anything else to add, Dr. Garcia?
No, this is Plan B, so the question here that I need is, does the board agree with this or not? Because they agree, then we have to go back and make the changes in the budget.
What about the C?
I,
We do have the plan.
She
C.
may be getting to the F level, yeah.
That is highly smart.
Confidential.
I would suggest that the board take a look at Plan B again. Take a look at Plan B, and at this time, what I want you to take a look at is where does Plan B put us at 3.4%? If you ask me to go to Plan C,
Well-
you asking me to
We
go-
need to resolve some of the questions that have been raised before we
Sure.
can say that it's going to be at 3.4. Because the increase from instructional supplies, there's some number here that don't make sense.
Well, they don't make sense because we took those numbers, or we took that item last year out. We put it back again this year.
No, they were there from last year.
No. That's why he took the money out. Remember when they took the money out from us?
I'm only looking at what it says, 2016 and 17, and then 2017 to 18, they're there.
But Dr. Gomez, it's not what we requested.
What we requested last year.
was the real numbers, but then they said, hey, take out $500,000, and we had to come back with different
Okay.
line
Areas,
items that we
like-
pulled it from. So we pulled it from, textbooks, I think, contracts.
Instructional
maintenance.
supplies, yeah.
All right,
So
so-
Dr.
How do we
Gomez,
know this?
So you're talking about what you did to the budget
Last-
It's
last year when we passed the budget,
last September.
but maybe we ought to be actually looking at what we actually spent, which turned out to be, well, because otherwise it does look peculiar that you're saying that central office supplies were, $2 $200,000 less than you're going to need for this next year. That's probably not what really happened.
Doesn't make
Well, I
mean,
have
sense.
to
it-
provide Tracy and all of you which
You're
line items.
you're
did we
talking
pull
about,
up.
you're talking
What is
about
that?
comparing the budget proposal for 2018 against the budget fiction from 2016-17, because you created the fiction when you made an adjustment to knock $500,000 out of the budget.
Well, people rarely want to pull headcount out, so we have to make a decision about which operating expenses are we going to reduce, because at the end of the day, we do end up spending some of that money, but the savings, as you say, I have to come to you with budget transfers, and we
Yeah,
transfer the
I know.
money.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we have to make a decision at that point in time, because what happened is they asked Dr. Garcia, give us one-time things that you want that we can take out of your budget that we can pay for somewhere else. So we gave them a list of those one-time items, and it was things from Neil, it was things from Wayne, it was things, and then all of a sudden, those evaporated. They never funded those. But I had taken them out of our budget because they requested that we take those pieces out. So when I took those things out, it reduced those lines artificially, because they were going to pay for them in a different manner. They were going to pay for them either out of capital, or they were going to pay it out of, some RCIP, they call it, Reserve for Capital Improvement.
All right, so if you're
Because of
going to,
that,
if you're going to put this up on the web, and people are going to look at it and have the same kind of questions that Mrs. Lambert just asked, because it looks odd, I would recommend that you add little footnotes to some of these numbers about where you made.
If you look at the back,
Well, the
Well,
question is.
no, but
did we really
page
spend-
44 is
the real
not,
question is, he's using artificial.
Put the
real question
asterisk
is,
on page
did we really
44
spend
too, and then people can go to the
$500?
back.
Right,
Oh, did we
that's-
spend
that's the thing, is it
2,000 or
didn't work
300,000?
consistently
He didn't put the
across.
number that we
Yes,
actually
My
spent in
question
structural.
comes
yeah, I know, but that's,
And that's the problem.
that's the problem. I mean, it's the other way to show this.
Yeah, Chris,
Hold on.
I think the issue here, and we will have to fix this issue, is that 500, I'm looking at the 500, let's use that one as an example. It's not the actual number we spend in instructional supplies. It's the number where you reduce it by.
So how much did you spend? I
That's
guess
what we
that's the
need to
question.
find.
How
Well,
much did you really
that's
spend?
one question. The other one is, like in the back, maintenance and repair budget was cut by 130 by the BOF. Also, textbooks were removed from the budget last year after BOF reductions. Does that mean we don't spend money on textbooks?
Yeah, but the maintenance, you actually probably didn't spend most of the money, you deferred it.
Well, if you looked at the
Okay.
actuals, you'll see we did defer it.
Yeah,
That
I
we had
know.
150 there that's not being spent.
So in the end, when we end up at, producing at the end of the year, unless we generate a surplus, we can't generate a deficit. So at the end, we're going to spend at least $45,951,000, okay?
Absolutely.
We're- all right. And that's where it's probably going to come out. So maybe we ought to be looking more at comparing what we're asking for against what we're actually spending, rather than a budget that we passed in September that's no longer what actually happened. Because I understand what you did with the budget, but the explanation gets kind of convoluted, because that's not what we're actually doing, and when people look at this thing, it looks like you're comparing this to that, but
We'll put the footnote in there.
So
Yeah, I think it would just be helpful if
Yeah,
you looked
I
at
think
page
that's-
44, it would just have a 1 next to it. The footnote can still be in the back,
I'll put it there too. I'll put
Okay.
the footnote
I
consistently
think
across the board.
more than footnote, we need to know how much was
I
really
agree.
spent.
Actual
I agree,
numbers.
I agree.
I agree.
And then also, because if you have 3 or 4 that do not reflect, the real expenditures, then I'm gonna doubt every other number.
Right.
Not me right now, but whoever sees them from somewhere else, they say, well, there are some numbers that are wrong.
They're questionable.
How many are there? How many more are there? So, I don't know.
People's institutional knowledge is bad because they don't remember where the cuts, who made the cuts, when the cuts were made, and we compare budget to budget
But
typically.
it has nothing to do with what was spent. I guess my request would be that if you're saying that we spent during the year 2016, 2017, X number, that reflects what was really spent, so we can make
Well,
ascertain better.
I'll give you that
We
information,
can
Dr. Gomez.
make a better informed
It's no
decision.
problem.
No, we're not going to give it to you, we're going to change it in the budget.
Yeah,
to be sure to
because
the budget.
you actually have you have the budget, and you have a history of all the budget transfers, right?
Yeah.
So if you take the original budget and add the budget transfers, you should end up with something that makes sense in terms of
That's
the,
really.
the actual budget that we're
legitimate
actually working
expenditures
from.
For the year.
Right.
What the year in, all the line items were.
This is what we
And then you
spent.
work on what the increase of the decreases are after the actual year-end
yeah.
budget.
And those are the numbers we're asking for, the actual
Yeah.
amount that we spent.
On those,
Well,
on those.
And then we really know what the true
And those are
expenditure
maybe
was.
double check on every other item, just to
But-
make sure that they're right. Because now, I don't know.
Because you have nothing better to do during two budget seasons than to run those numbers. But I do think that they are valid, and I do think they're necessary for us to be able to make this decision.
No problem.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that, given us budget transfers for every change, they
Well,
don't
we
have to
spent
be that
last year and
difficult
what
to
the
do.
proposals for this year, that way we can ask for justification if there's a big discrepancy. Dr. Garcia or Chris, I'm not sure which one. Legal fees, where do they fall under central office?
We have it in central office,
Right, I don't see
It's
it.
under contracts. I think it's
Services, under contract.
services.
What
Okay.
page are you now?
but if you look at my graph, I do have it on the central office.
Still page 44, contract services is line 300, and it has a decrease of $80,000.
Right, because part of it is, we had one time we had negotiations for 4 unions.
Yeah.
which
And now
are
we're not
no
going to have
longer-
that.
We're not going to have that this year.
Okay,
Again.
all right. I didn't know it was contract services when you just said that, I just went
No,
across and went, okay.
We don't have any coming up this year?
How many we have, Jolene, coming up?
We actually have paras and tutors, school nurses, and we have a clause, the admin contract. So we have 3,
3.
right, for this year.
For this year?
But we had secretaries and teachers, which were big ones.
Yeah, well, the other one, the big ones we had, yeah.
For a long
Teachers,
time.
secretaries, yeah, that kind of stuff.
It's, I recall the secretaries was a thumb wrestling match.
2 years, 2 years, you see.
That was the expensive contract.
That was the expensive contract.
Nobody's counting, right, Darrell? 2.5.
Lots of legal fees.
So we're supposed to approve this next week.
Next week.
Yep.
Right,
When
so,
can we get those?
Friday. We send it back to you on Friday.
I mean, I can get you the stuff tomorrow. It's not that many.
I
not
think-
Right,
many
I think
line
that-
items.
Chris, in my personal opinion, this is going to go on our webpage, and I actually want it to be accurate in this budget book. You know, if you want to send it to us ahead of time, to the board members, so that we can study it ahead of time, great,
See,
but
I'll
fix it
footnote
in this.
I can't change the numbers because that's what they actually are. You see, that's.
No, that's not what they actually are.
that's what they are.
You take the original budget and you run the transfers against it, and that's what it actually
That's what
is.
those numbers are.
The transfers are an adjustment to the budget.
We may not have revised all
envelopes,
the
everything?
items that we cut, like for instance,
Well,
textbooks,
it-
we took the money out, we haven't spent it.
Yeah, because you don't have a transfer for it, so it is what it says.
It is what it says, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. If you take the budget, you run all the transfers against it, it should be where we're at.
Those were the numbers. Give us those numbers.
Give us those
You
numbers.
want the revised budget versus the original budget?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
as revised by approved
How
transfers.
you should work off of
It's
it. and the
actual.
real one.
It's a
just
live
It's
document,
different
yeah.
than what's happened in the past, so I'm glad to provide that to you,
Yes.
but it's different.
Well, those more accurate numbers will give us a decision. If we spent $500,000 last year on books, and we have $10,000 this year, well, why is there such a discrepancy? Because we bought all the textbooks we needed, we're good for a year, these are just replacement for damage or whatever. Okay, that makes perfect sense. We spent $500,000 last year, and I know we didn't, on textbooks, and we're spending $3 million this year, why the
What
discrepancy?
question? Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, but that's going to take maybe a little bit of time.
Yeah.
A couple of days.
Okay.
But,
It's
To add
Wednesday.
the revisions.
I'll pick it up tomorrow at 9.
Yep.
I understand, that's why when you said you'd have it tomorrow, I'm like, that's a lot
I didn't
more
know,
work
I
than you
thought
think,
you
yeah.
meant the 5 line items would change.
No, the actual year-end budget, actual
Year-end
expenditures.
budget versus.
Well, the current, wherever we are currently, because we're not at the end of the year yet
Well,
either,
yeah,
so.
all right.
But if you just take the budget and run all the transfers against it, that's the current state of the budget.
I think that's it.
And I'm happy to take an electronic copy
Yeah, let's not
Yes.
kill any more trees or use any more color copies than we have to. Let's reduce that color copy budget line next year, because everything we get is, I mean, this is really nice, and it looks professional and well done, but for a working document, I don't need 5,000 pages of color document. For the Board of Ed retreat, maybe the graphs, so we could tell the difference between red, green, and yellow when we're looking at graphs, but I don't need a $500 packet, so I would take a digital copy or a black and white copy as well.
What about the Plan B?
I'm not done. I haven't started.
Oh, Mr.
Glad I get my
Frank.
kids for dinner then.
Yeah, they should be
Yeah,
out to dinner.
they will bring dinner.
Sorry, guys, it really isn't going to take that long. But anybody that figures that the state's going to cut $1.4 billion is really joking themselves that we're not going to get hit somewhere. And if you went by the governor's budget, where it was about a $1.5 million decrease in ECS, which I don't think is going to stick, but if something like that does happen all along, your 3.8% budget where you started actually would be an impact of 15% to the local taxpayer with the offset of the ECS grant. Now, who's going to accept the 15% increase in taxes?
No one.
No one.
So that being said, I think that we have to be prepared for something, but I'm not happy with 3.4%. I'm still a 3% guy. Cost of living, that's where we are. People are having a tough time. The state's overtaxed as it is, and we're just continuing to pile it up here, and we don't know what Governor Malloy and the rest of Hartford's going to do to us. You're going to have a real tough time this year, unfortunately, and we're going to have to try and help you as much as we can. But I don't think that the 600,000 in new positions and stuff is something that we really should be looking at.
So we're not there anymore at 600,000?
No, if you took,
3.4?
now we're at 425.
Yes, right.
So now I'm saying the 425 is something I don't think is actually
Okay.
something we should be looking
So
at.
that's why I made the explanation that that 600,000 is not positions that already are currently in the budget. They are new.
They're all new.
They are
I'm
new.
not saying to cut any of the,
Exactly.
I'm saying, just like the mayor of New Haven said last night, we're dead flat budget, just trying to get by because we don't know what Hartford's going to do.
Because if that's the request of the board, that could be Plan C, that we take out the rest of the, I think it's 435,000.
Right.
I think 435, Chris, left? For the 600,000? 425.
I got 425.
425.
Okay, and then the other.
That gets you below
request
3.
I would do is also
Yeah, that
have,
gets us below 3.
yeah, I would also request that Chris gets one-time purchases together, like Chromebooks and so on, if that's what we're going to do in textbooks.
Chromebooks aren't going to be a one-time purchase, because in theory, every year, we're going to add another
Update.
group that is going to get the
Right.
computers. And there's going to be a replacement.
Right.
And you need to update software.
Well, what I'm saying is if there's any one-time purchases, we should
That's-
pool
that
them
shouldn't
so
be
that
that
the
expensive.
Board of Finance has
Except for the
purview
textbook stuff.
of whether or not to extract it from the regular budget and take it out of fund balance and do it that way.
Definitely, there'll be a question that'll be asked.
So that's something we should be looking at as
Okay.
well. Okay? See, it wasn't that long. It was painful, but it wasn't that long.
If we took away the 425 left, though, that would put us below
Below 3.
3.
That's even better.
No,
I,
because the Board of Finance will cut us.
No, you can't go, if you do your job, if we do our job, and really caringly go before the Board of Finance, if we really did what we needed to do, this is what we need. The Board of Finance isn't there to make hacks and say, we want to show how important we are, we're going to cut you $500,000. The Board of Finance, I don't see over the last 20, 25 years, has ever been a board like that was out just to say, well, we did our job.
But you know, the year before, my first year, I was so happy. You saw how much they gave me. And then last year, it went the
But wait a
opposite.
minute, wasn't that the year I was chair?
Yes, yes,
Oh, excuse me, man. Excuse me.
Most of all, I believe we need to be realistic on what can be
Yeah.
approved by the voter or not. Otherwise, we're just gonna have problems, we're gonna prolong with kind of agonies. And so we should really look at what we present to the voters, to the Board of Finance, and I know the needs that we have, I mean, we probably need a 10% increase in order to cover the real needs, but that's not gonna happen.
It's not our reality.
So let's be realistic, let's be, I don't know, prudent, in what we present to the public, to the taxpayers, to everyone. And I think that if we present a 2.93, then we're going to have to defend that, before, because those are the real needs. That's what we need, real papers, that show the state of what we are right now. And then we will defend that minimum. If it's 2.9, if it's 3.0, then, I don't think the Board of Finance is just going to cut because they want to.
They want to cut.
If we go with 425 left, it will put us below the 3%. The only,
What does that mean?
no, I say it will put us below the 3%.
The increase would be below 3%.
Yeah, it will put us to 3%.
3% then.
Well, if we go cut the 425,000, but we add in that $100,000 that's erroneously taken out of the middle school administrator, it's a wash. We're right around 3 again anyways. I mean, we have to make sure that these are accurate numbers.
3% because they're going to go in and do what they did last year, I think, similar things.
They're under the
They
same
only go
gun
by
we're
history.
under, only more so
Well,
because
they're-
that bottom
yeah.
line they have to own.
Yeah, we have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a
Deja vu.
There's a flip side of this problem, which is, in the first place, some of these expenses, you can cut the numbers, but like I said about the substitute teachers, you're still going to have to hire substitutes so you can take it out of the budget, but you're going to end up paying the money. So maybe you don't really want to take it out of the budget if you're going to have to pay for it anyway. Second, the superintendent asked a really good question a couple of budget forums ago, which is, if all you're doing is flat funding every year, I mean, flat funding by taking the mandated increases in salaries and so that you're basically where you were, how are you ever going to improve things? I mean, we've got a mandate to improve the quality of student performance, and that requires investing in things that we're not currently doing. I mean, it requires prudent investment, but it requires increasing a little bit beyond the minimum necessary just to stay where we are, okay?
Well, yeah,
If we stay where we are, we're going to stay where we are, and that's not what the objective is here. I'm not sure what the voters will actually vote for, It depends on whether we can get the turnout. If we get the turnout that we got last May, you're absolutely right. If you get the turnout we got last September, it's a different deal. So what can we do about that? So we got two questions here in terms of what can you get the Board of Finance to allow the voters to vote on at least once? And what can you get the voters to vote on? And I don't know that, I don't really want to go below 3.4. Not until the voters tell me I have to.
Question, grand list growth in the town. You have any,
It's slight. It's about 200,000 to 300,000, but that's good in Connecticut because most municipalities have seen a decline. In
so we're going to see 200,000 to 300,000 more in revenue from just the growth of the
From the
grand
grand
list.
list growth, right.
And then-
So, and also the towns, what they're proposing to go to the voters at this point before any cuts, because both the taxing district and the town general government, right now, the departments have given their budgets to the town council. It has not been reduced by the town council, and it hasn't been sent to the Board of Finance. So it's at a point where it's just been presented, but the message was hard zero to them, and it's pretty close as far as what they've come back with, because the taxing district, which is police and fire, the public safety, their current budget is a .08 mil increase, that's $8 per 100,000, and the town's general government is .18 or $18 per 100,000. So a person living in Willimantic at this point would see a $26 increase with town general government and but that is pre-cuts. Now, we know they're going to.
And we don't know, again, the cuts from the state that are going to impact the town, so.
But the assumption that Neil Beats used to go to his departments was that if the state revenue picture would be status quo, similar to what we're presuming here, until we know better.
Well, that's true, until you know better.
Yeah.
But you know you're not going to get 1.4 billion out of Turnip's blood, right?
Well, the governor's proposing that the town take on a third of the teacher's pension. If that happens,
That's not gonna
everything's
happen.
up in the air.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the legislature's not going to
That's not going to happen.
vote for that.
That's
But-
not going to happen.
Because, that hurts us actually less than a lot of other towns.
That would bankrupt the town. That's not going to happen.
Anything can happen,
Not only,
No, that's not going to happen.
given the state of the.
But,
I think last year we started out with 2.99%, what we
No,
sent them.
we end up,
That's what we basically started at.
We started.
Before any cuts.
right.
I mean, we did provide a budget that was
Yeah.
4.7% increase, then they took that down to, at the first BOF meeting, they took us down.
Yeah, but
to
then
point-
we added the night that Dr. Garcia wasn't here, and then that blew up in our face all last
And
year.
then it went, that 2.99% went to the voters twice, I believe,
Yeah.
before it was reduced by 500,000.
Yes.
To get us 1.9%.
Yeah.
So that's the history
Yes.
for
But-
last year.
But the year before, we did pretty well in that budget.
First shot.
Yeah.
Things we can justify, like Dr. Sewell said, the substitutes. The Board of Finance, there are members who hate that we pay Kelly Services. So instead of paying Kelly Services, this is what we want to do. We can justify those kind of things. And those are something they've said the past 3 or 4 years that we've paid Kelly Services. We don't want you to pay Kelly Services, we want you to pay. Well, that's fine. We can't get day-to-day subs, per diem subs, but we have these, 2 people per building, right? That we're keeping on staff to substitute, to cut down on how much we have to pay Kelly Services when we can't get local substitutes. That's how we justify it. We have to find things in our budget that they've asked us about previously that we can justify in a way that we are trying to save us money in the long run by doing this. Those are talking points that you and Chris have to get ready for when we go to the Board of Finance for our presentation.
So do you feel that 2.99% is a possibility?
it's too low.
Better than 3.8.
Okay, so one of the things what I need
Plan
from,
B?
No.
Sorry.
one of the things we need from the board as a whole is we're happy to work on all the adjustment of the budget. Chris and I are going to sleep tomorrow night. I'd be happy.
Much anyway.
We'd be happy, but we need to leave here with some clear guidelines of where you guys want us to go.
So that you have 400, in Plan B, you've got $425,000, all right?
Right.
Made up of what? So Mrs. Lambert's correct. The way you get that is that you explain what it is. and- and-
6 building substitute, 2 academic coaches, 4 teachers.
That's what that,
Okay, there is a 1.2% growth in the number of students. So I don't know what that works out to in terms of how many teachers you need for a 1 point, but there are going to be more students next year than we have this year. So
and they're going to keep coming.
the substitutes, the substitutes, at least some substitutes, if we don't pay for them this way, we're going to pay for them some other way. And the other way is probably going to cost us more. So this is actually going to save money, even though it raises our budget request.
All right, then I'll propose it the way I used to when I was chair of Board of Finance. I see the 425, you got new positions, but I'm not going to tell you it's new positions. Find it anywhere you want in your budget. So if Kelly Services issue is more important, that's what you get, you do something else. And that's how I used to run the board.
Well,
I'm not telling you where to go with that 425. I see that projection of that 425 as new.
Yes.
That you could possibly live without and everything stays status quo. But if you feel there's something important in there, then find somewhere else within your budget so that you can get what you want out of the new.
And the problem there is you do things like defer maintenance that you've already deferred once. Sooner or later, that's going to come back and bite you.
You are in a real crunch, and when people start to realize that people don't have the money.
We've been in a real crunch for 12 years. At some point or
No,
other,
it hasn't been
you have to
12
pay
years.
that piper.
It's been since the freaking Wall Street debacle.
In 2008, but, okay. Actually, I think the crunch has been since 2007, when the legislature essentially stopped using the ECS froze the ECS.
Well, that's
And they stopped paying any additional money, really. It played around with Alliance money and Commissioners Network, and we squeezed a little out of the Special Master Program. And the problem is that money has always been peekaboo. It's, here one day, it's not there the next day. But
No, it's because the state can.
But once the state essentially froze their contribution, except for little games that they play on the side, we've been facing this bugaboo. So whether you look at it from then or from the crash in 2008, but at some point or other, you have to pay for all those, deferred savings.
Right. At some point, we have to, but I don't know that with what the state could do, this is the best time to not be very prudent with our cuts. If Dr. Garcia feels like she
Wait a minute,
needs
there's
to-
prudent and there's
Yeah,
prudent. Sometimes, I'm looking at what looks to me like penny wise and pound foolish.
I don't disagree with you. However, I think we've given Dr. Garcia a mandate now, try and get it as close to 3 as you can, and come back to us and let us know what those cuts could potentially be. Arguing about whose fault it is on the state
Doesn't
level
matter.
from 2008 isn't going to save anybody anything at this point. These are the numbers
Yeah.
we have to deal with. We'd like to get it as close to 3 as possible.
I just don't want to find cuts that aren't real.
If
I don't
that
want to cut
means-
substitutes you're going to end up paying for anyway.
And that's exactly what I said. But if that means fire extinguishers, I'm not willing to get rid of fire extinguishers to save
Yeah.
$200,000.
Or the young parents program, or the after-school program. There's things like that that we have to
All the things we want to
do.
keep, which are great, but if she comes to us and says, there's no way we can keep all of these, then we have harder
You guys
decisions.
want to keep everything.
Right, I
Well,
understand.
then you have to try and see whether you can actually pass it.
It's like cleaning the playroom with your kids in the house. They want to save every toy you want to
want
throw
to
out.
throw it.
So you
Yeah.
do it when they're not home, but she can't do it when we're not home because we have to vote on it. So she has to let us know what she's throwing out.
Okay. And do you want to tick off the taxpayers again this year so that they say, well, we're going to show you because you weren't?
No, we don't want to do
And so
that.
we're going to come out, and even when we think that you deserve it, we're still going to say no. So let's start all over again with what we did last year.
One very important question that shot us in the foot last year that hasn't been asked yet is, have all of the SGCs seen the budgets and signed off on them? Do you have 8 signatures?
Yes, when we have,
Every
A
signature.
signature.
That's what I was.
although there is a school that the SGC is questionable, but I do have 8 sheets, Mrs. Lambert.
Well, one of them, the Barrows is a PAL or something, or a PAC or something like that, but they have 7 SGCs, which are mandated because we were in an alliance district or
No,
commissioners network.
actually,
No.
they're not mandated. We choose to do that
We chose to do
to,
them, right, but that's where it originated from.
Yes.
Thank you.
it originated out of a statute that actually it never applied to more than 2 of our buildings, in terms of statutory requirement.
But anyways, we have them, and we have a policy that says that we're going to have them.
Yes.
Therefore, we need to have a signature on every single one of
Absolutely.
those buildings.
We have them right, Jen?
And that's what caused us a problem last year. There was a large portion of our involved parent population that chose to vote no or
We
not
have them.
vote because we didn't have them. So
Yeah,
nobody
that's
had
right.
asked that question yet. I thought it
No,
was important.
you're absolutely right.
So our request to Dr. Garcia is to get as close as possible
To
to
3.
3%, and to show us what does that mean.
Okay. Yeah, not a problem. We can do-
To include the YPP program, to include the after-school
Hold on
program.
for a second. Are you telling me to go back and put all of these things, that $1 million back and get back to 3%?
No, not $1 million, but
No.
the
Keeps us in
after-school
control.
program, the young parents program is $100,000.
Oh, well, okay, so you guys.
We're going to have to find the money to pay for those.
Yeah.
If the state in fact cuts those, or the Fed cuts them,
We
we're
need
going
to
to
find
have
them.
to find the money to pay for it.
Yes.
Because
I'm not
the
disagreeing.
social cost of
The
not
taxpayer
paying,
is going to have to find the money to pay for it.
well, I'll tell you what, if you don't do it, you end up with young people who don't graduate from high school. You know, the
families leaving
calculated
children
difference
at home.
between graduating from high school and not
Yep.
is $100,000 per year per child.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between being a taxpayer as opposed to being on welfare or incarcerated. It's $100,000 a year, and now you get a life expectancy of 50 years after high school, right? So 50 years at $100,000 a year per child who doesn't graduate from high school who could have.
Dr.
We need to
Sewell,
do
if you
everything
live
we-
50 years past high school, you should be gone by now.
Hey, I'm beating the odds, Tracy.
I think the most important thing for our district is that after-school program, that a lot of our families count on that program, and
Well,
that's huge in our district.
That's $80,000. I mean,
There again, you have to pick and choose
Yes.
where you need it.
we've been picking and choosing for so many years, there's not a whole lot left to pick and
Mrs.
choose. And
Lambert?
and Mrs. Haney can tell you what happened when they decided to pick and choose something like the alternate
School.
school.
The alternate
You
high
know,
school.
that's turned out to be one that's burned us badly.
Thank you, Dr. Sewell. Mrs. Lambert?
Oh, the after-school program, I have been fortunate that I've been a stay-at-home mom, but the after-school program, is there a sliding scale to
Yeah.
pay for that?
Yeah, very
Is there
small.
any way that can be adjusted to make up some of that? And I don't want to put a hardship on the families, but I know some families that need to take advantage of it because both parents work or whatever, that could possibly have a slight adjustment. And I'm not trying to put more on the families, it's taxes or this, I understand that. But the people that utilize it the most, could there possibly be an adjustment in the sliding scale to create some revenue to amend that deficit?
Yeah, we do
think-
have
Is
a
that
sliding
something
scale, so
we can
do
look
that.
at?
I think the sliding scale, what, it goes according to the federal poverty level?
Yeah. Another thing that you approved a couple years ago was transportation. You changed the transportation requirement for pre-K, remember? And so that created a big also expense for the budget.
Honey, if I had $1 for every time we've changed transportation in the 8 years we've been on the board, we can fund the budget, no problem, so.
I just want to say,
But if-
that was another, I mean, you changed, we went from what, a mile to a half a mile?
Oh,
something?
yes, we did.
For
that.
pre-K.
We went according to the state
requirement.
standards, though. There's
Yeah.
not much we can do
No,
about that.
no, not for pre-K. Not for pre-K.
Okay, well, that's something you can look
For the
at.
others, we did, but not for pre-K.
That's something you can look at, and that means that we have to have a policy revision in place for July 1st if this budget is going to go effect, because it's going to pass on
But
the
wait a
first
minute,
referendum.
pre-K is a little different. Depending on the funding source of the pre-Ks, if there are Head Start programs, or they are under Head Start
Not-
or
but not
the after-school,
transportation. We pay the transportation.
we pay that.
Right.
Okay.
So the funding that we get for pre-K pay the salaries of teachers, but we end up paying the transportation for pre-K.
Okay.
There's a risk there, too.
Yeah.
And you're
Gotta be
talking about having pre-K students walking.
Walk farther. I
To catch
understand
school
that.
buses, well, walking, and so what happens is parents that don't want their children to stay on a snowy, so then they either don't put the kids in the program in the first place, or they withdraw the kids in the first, and we pay for that later by having children in kindergarten who are not really ready to
They're
be
not
there.
ready, yeah.
But the statistics on how much Head Start and stuff like that really impact kindergarten, first grade learning is tenuous.
Well, yeah, except that,
But
I,
I'm not talking about impacting the program, I'm not saying
Right.
look at the transportation.
Well, you can come back
I know,
to us with a
but
recommendation on that.
But that motivates parents to not enroll children that would otherwise be enrolled, and that's
Mr. Frank
that's
said that I
detrimental.
have to look at things.
In
so I
that
have to look-
population, that's
Right,
detrimental.
no, look at that and come back to us with a recommendation if that's what you need to do. But I think the sliding scale is something that we
Yeah.
can look at and adjust if necessary. It's a budgetary impact. We have to do this because it's either do this or not have an after-school program. I'd rather, families that can absorb a little bit more do, and families that obviously can't absorb any and are trying to work and whatever,
Yeah.
theirs remains the same or goes unchanged or decreases if it really has to, but I'd really like that not to be the case.
Yeah.
But I don't think having,
Ms. Lasar?
I would just hope that when you do try to make your decreases, which I know will be tough, that there are a couple of positions that I hope don't get cut, like the ESOL teacher for the high school, the bilingual teacher for NATROG, some of Mr. Pavone's requests, because that's gonna affect us, so we don't have to outsource for speech and language, et cetera, so.
The speech and language is a big kicker.
And
first.
for a bilingual school psychologist, because right now we're paying for outside
Outsource.
evaluations for that, so.
I mean, the budget reductions to get to 3% is another 175. So with Plan B, you get to 175, which gets us to 3.4. Another 175 will get us
Yeah.
to just around 3%. So the question is, of the remaining list, what can we do with, and what can we do without?
Yeah, but the remaining list, the teachers are all bilingual teachers, Chris. We didn't have teachers from any other subject, they're all bilingual. Every single teacher in the request in the list are bilingual teachers.
You got
ESL teacher.
you got two ways to get it down more. One is to defer more, which is risky.
Yeah.
Another is to find items that we can propose to the Board of Finance could be taken out of the uncommitted fund balance.
So that
Yeah,
would be.
and we've tried to find as much as we can of that already.
Take the technology and textbook out.
Yeah,
Because we've
Ms.
already pulled
Haney?
out 504 and given that to the town in their capital budget. So all of the things that Brendan proposed as far as capital, 504,000, and he can tell you what line items those are. Those are on this budget to get it where it is now, and on their on the town's capital budget.
And when are we gonna
So
look
there
at
really
that?
isn't that much more we can pull out
Next week, it
of
looks like.
as far as technology goes.
Ms. Lassard, you want to add anything else?
Well, I don't want to cut the technology stuff either. I guess if something maybe I could see doing without is the 1.5 for the academic coaches. I know that they're important, and I know that indirectly that will affect the students, but it's not.
It's a very costly initiative.
Yeah. And I know we already have some in place right now. It would be nice to have them, but that might be something that maybe we could.
Well, Dr. Youngberg and I have been talking about restructuring, redesigning, so this could be an opportunity to look at those.
To redesign?
And I still say we have too much administrative staff.
Administrators?
Administrative staff.
Staff?
Administrative staff.
Well, the high school.
I'm talking clerical.
At the high school, you had proposed adding a dean, too.
I took that out.
You took that out.
That disappeared.
How he goes.
Now,
Mrs.
but does the high school still have 8 secretarial positions?
How many have, John?
I think it's on the sheets in here.
It's in the back, I think.
We did not fill one of those last year. We
I didn't
filled
fill one of the high school
Okay.
position.
So now we're down to 7.
They requested 8.
Well, no way. I think they ought to have 5,
Okay,
frankly.
well, you can't arbitrarily say that without.
No, I'm saying, we got 20 or 30 years of technology that's reduced those kinds of positions all over industry. Why in public service can we not reduce the number of clerical staff when industry has reduced clerical staff by 30 and 40%?
When you're standing outside in front of the high school pushing that button to get let in and it's freezing cold and the one secretary we have has gone to the ladies' room, tell me we don't need somebody to be able to cover that task. Mrs. Haney has to.
Mrs. Haney?
You're not getting it.
Mrs. Haney has to.
I'm sorry, but if you have to find a place that's, you know, at the margin where you can afford to get rid of something.
Mrs. Haney?
Just a couple of comments. I think one of the things that we really need to make, you really need to make a big deal over are the improvements. You know, the one thing that we've heard over the years is school's not making improvement, kids aren't improving, why are we spending money? Well, let's show them that spending the money has made a difference, and let's make a very big deal about that. Everybody's talked about one-time expenditures. You know, that's a question you're going to be asked, so one-time expenditures that we can allocate to capital or fund would be terrific. And then any services, maintenance or snow removal, anything that we can combine with the town that maybe can save us some money on the
Snow
one
plow.
side. Just combining efforts to see if there's anywhere we can save money on that. I think you guys are doing an awesome job, and I think one of the things that I think the Board of Finance has always said is that, you know, FaceTime with students, the things that really matter are the direct services to our kids. So we'll be supporting you.
Any questions, Dr. Garcia?
Yep.
You have clarity?
Yeah, and
Okay.
She doesn't like the clarity, but
doesn't
she's
like
got it.
It's as clear as mud.
Chris, you know what?
It's a good idea. Don't take
Yes?
anything away, but reduce the
Okay.
budget.
Great.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
Okay,
There are some things that we can.
okay.
Okay, I move we move.
Dr.
Yes.
Gomez had his hand
Oh,
up.
I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
I take back my.
No, I just want to, kind of following up on Mrs. Haney there, I want to end kind of where we started today. And I just want to say that as a board member, and I think everybody else, feel very appreciative of the efforts that you're doing. The Sweeney is a good example today. And I saw, and I mean, I agree with you because this year after, we at least we feel like we're contributing to something and there is some improvement. So very appreciative of your team, the teachers at Sweeney and the teachers everywhere else and everything else that comes with it.
Thank you.
It's a big package and it looks nice, well wrapped.
It was a great team effort this year. Everybody pitched in, and we've got a lot of great information in here.
Yeah, so I really want to say thank you.
And we appreciate it on behalf of the team.
Thank you,
Really
Dr.
appreciate it.
Gomez.
We had I want to say Sweeney's a phenomenal school. Today I went there to congratulate the teachers, and they were all excited. And but it's an example of when people buy in and do what they have to do. The curriculum maps are already complete at the beginning. The teachers from Sweeney, those dig into them, did what they have to do, doing the instruction, and he's paid off. Of all the schools in the district, Sweeney scores are just going up. I still have a school that is not on the bus yet. They're at the bus stop waiting to get on, so I have to still work hard. Then at the bus stop waiting to get on. They don't know what bus stop. Well, I already did a different bus stop, but when we do, it's a different bus stop. But when we put good practices in place and we support teachers, and teachers are willing to do the work, it's a payoff. And Sweeney's a perfect example of that.
I think,
Hopefully, they will all follow the example.
I think there's a little, I said, only one school is still at the bus stop, waiting at the bus stop. They're not yet on the bus. We still have to do some work there.
so we, like Mrs. Haney said, we just have to sell it. We really do. We have to go in there and tell them, this is what we have accomplished, this is what we're doing, and this is where we want to go. And I think we'll do a good job. But
And thank you for letting me sit at your table.
absolutely.
So you will get the new budget Friday evening. We'll send it to you, and for the ones that want it electronically,
Yes.
we'll get it electronically.
Yes.
I still want my paper copy.
If you want to print it, that's fine, just do it black and white.
If you guys, come on, I spent hours shading.
You want it
Do what you
electronically?
gotta do. I'd rather it right, I would rather it right than on Friday. If you have to wait
Yes.
till Monday, I would love the weekend to read it, don't get me wrong. But if you have to wait till Monday to have it right, I would rather wait till Monday
Okay.
than to sit down next Wednesday when you would like us to vote to approve it and have, oh, wait, that was wrong, and that was wrong, and I
We
have
don't
to
want that.
adjust this, and this isn't what it's supposed to be.
No.
I'd rather it was right on Monday.
That happened last year.
Yeah, and we did this several times, and that's why
Happened just
you will
now.
tell your family not to be sick next Wednesday. But
No, I
that is
told my
why.
husband, nothing can happen to him next Wednesday.
But that is why we got to the point we got to, because there were changes and revisions, and this isn't quite right, and that I
Right,
meant to change and stuff like that. I would rather Chris had the weekend with his staff or by himself or however it's gonna work to get it right.
That's his
Yeah,
problem.
let him stay the weekend and get this fixed.
I will lock him in and bring him Dunkin'
You guys
Donuts on a regular
listen to
basis.
Mr. French that said, the superintendent is not here today, and this is our budget, remember? And we should respect her budget.
That's right. Very clear, thank you.
Finally, someone.
I move, we move.
All those in favor? Yes, let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jordan and Chris, do things.
So,